Thank you. It is currently 12:32 p.m. and today's date is the 23rd of January 2025. 23 days into the new year, ladies and gentlemen. How are you doing? How are you feeling? We are back. Thank you for tuning in. If you're just tuning in, I want to say thank you again and then double tap your screen, subscribe to the channel, like and share. And today we are going to be talking about Trump's World Economic Address. Okay. He addressed the World Economic Forum today in Davos. And we're going to talk about that shortly. We're going to see and hear what he had to say. And we're going to break it down. And what does this mean for the United States? Of course, he's spoken about bringing back jobs. He's spoken about establishing the United States as a powerhouse that it has always been. Okay. So this is what we're going to be checking out today. All right. Without further delay, we're going to go right straight into it. And we're going to also check out all the other topics today. We're going to discuss other topics. But for now, let's start with Trump's World Economic Forum address.
Mr. President,
hello.
What great honor, and pleasure to welcome you back to the Davos community. Just 4 days into your new mandate, we highly appreciate your presence with us today. We wish you all the best as you take on your critical work ahead. The global challenges we face today are monumental. The importance of American leadership and your personal leadership in this regard is fundamental and paramount. We are here to hear your vision and policies related to revitalizing the economy and addressing the global challenges. As you might expect, Mr. President, your return to office and your forthcoming policies have been at the focus of our discussions this week. The discussions among 3,000 political and business leaders from over 130 countries who came together here in Davos. We look forward to hearing first from you and then to the follow-up discussion with business leaders, moderated by my colleague Børge Brende. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
Well, thank you very much, Klaus, and hello to everyone in beautiful Davos. This has been a truly historic week in the United States. 3 days ago, I took the oath of office and we began the golden age of America. The recent presidential election was won by millions of votes, and all seven, every one of them, all seven swing states, there was a massive mandate from the American people like hasn't been seen in many years. And some of the political pundits, even some of my so-called enemies, said it was the most consequential election victory in 129 years. That's quite nice. What the world has witnessed in the past 72 hours is nothing less than a revolution of common sense. Our country will soon be stronger, wealthier, and more united than ever before, and the entire planet will be more peaceful and prosperous as a result of this incredible momentum and what we're doing and going to do. My administration is acting with unprecedented speed to fix the disasters we've inherited from a totally inept group of people and to solve every single crisis facing our country. This begins with confronting the economic chaos caused by the failed policies of the last administration. Over the past 4 years, our government racked up $8 trillion in wasteful deficit spending and inflicted nation-wrecking energy restrictions, crippling regulations, and hidden taxes like never before. The result is the worst inflation crisis in modern history and sky-high interest rates for our citizens and even throughout the world. Food prices and the price of almost every other thing known to mankind went through the roof. President Biden totally lost control of what was going on in our country, but in particular with our high inflation economy and at our border. Because of these ruinous policies, total government spending this year is $1.5 trillion higher than was projected to occur when I left office just 4 years ago. Likewise, the cost of servicing the debt is more than 230% higher than was projected in 2020. The inflation rate we are inheriting remains 50% higher than the historic target. It was the highest inflation probably in the history of our country. That's why from the moment I took office, I've taken rapid action to reverse each and every one of these radical left policies that created this calamity, in particular with immigration, crime, and inflation. On day one, I signed an executive order directing every member of my cabinet to marshal all powers at their disposal to defeat inflation and reduce the cost of daily life. I imposed a federal hiring freeze, a federal regulation freeze, a foreign aid freeze, and I created the new Department of Government Efficiency. I terminated the ridiculous and incredibly wasteful Green New Deal. I call it the Green New Scam. Withdrew from the one-sided Paris Climate Accord and ended the insane and costly electric vehicle mandate. We're going to let people buy the car they want to buy. I declared a national energy emergency, and it's so important, national energy emergency to unlock the liquid gold under our feet and pave the way for rapid approvals of new energy infrastructure. The United States has the largest amount of oil and gas of any country on earth, and we're going to use it. Not only will this reduce the cost of virtually all goods and services, it'll make the United States a manufacturing superpower and the world capital of artificial intelligence and crypto. My administration has also begun the largest deregulation campaign in history, far exceeding even the record-setting efforts of my last term. In total, the Biden administration imposed $50,000 in additional regulatory costs on the average American household over the last 4 years. I have promised to eliminate 10 old regulations for every new regulation, which will soon put many thousands of dollars back in the pockets of American families. To further unleash our economy, our majorities in the House and Senate, which we also took along with the presidency, are going to pass the largest tax cut in American history, including massive tax cuts for workers and family, and big tax cuts for domestic producers and manufacturers. And we're working with the Democrats on getting an extension of the original Trump tax cuts, as you probably know, by just reading any paper. My message to every business in the world is very simple. Come make your product in America, and we will give you among the lowest taxes of any nation on earth. We're bringing them down very substantially, even from the original Trump tax cuts. But if you don't make your product in America, which is your prerogative, then very simply you will have to pay a tariff, differing amounts, but a tariff which will direct hundreds of billions of dollars and even trillions of dollars into our treasury to strengthen our economy and pay down debt. Under the Trump administration, there will be no better place on earth to create jobs, build factories, or grow a company than right here in the good old USA. Already Americans' economic, you can see this, I think, maybe even in your in your wonderful, wonderful room that you're all gathered together. So many of my friends, but Americans, the economic confidence is soaring like we haven't seen in many, many decades, maybe not at all. Upon my election, it was just announced that small business optimism skyrocketed by 41 points in a single month. That's the highest ever. There's never been anything like that. SoftBank has announced between a $100 and $200 billion investment in the U.S. economy because of the election result. And just 2 days ago, Oracle, SoftBank, and OpenAI announced a $500 billion investment in AI infrastructure. Other companies likewise have announced billions and billions and billions, adding up to trillions of investment in America, in the United States. And it's also reported today in the papers that Saudi Arabia will be investing at least $600 billion in America. But I'll be asking the Crown Prince, who's a fantastic guy, to round it out to around $1 trillion. I think they'll do that because we've been very good to them. And I'm also going to ask Saudi Arabia and OPEC to bring down the cost of oil. You got to bring it down, which, frankly, I'm surprised they didn't do before the election. That didn't show a lot of love by them not doing it. I was a little surprised by that. If the price came down, the Russia-Ukraine war would end immediately. Right now, the price is high enough that that war will continue. You got to bring down the oil price. You got to end that war. They should have done it long ago. They're very responsible, actually, to a certain extent, for what's taking place. Millions of lives are being lost. With oil prices going down, I'll demand that interest rates drop immediately, and likewise, they should be dropping all over the world. Interest rates should follow us. All over, the progress that you're seeing is happening because of our historic victory in a recent presidential election, one that has become quite well known throughout the world. I think a lot of things are happening to a lot of countries. They say that there's light shining all over the world since the election, and even countries that we aren't particularly friendly with are happy because they understand what there is a future and how great the future will be. Under our leadership, America is back and open for business. And this week, I'm also taking swift action to stop the invasion at our southern border. They allowed people to come in at levels that nobody's ever seen before. It was ridiculous. I decided and declared to do, and very, very importantly, a national emergency on our border, immediately halted all entry of illegal border crossers, of which there were many, and began promptly returning the illegal trespassers back to the place from which they came. That action, as you've probably seen, has already started very strongly. I've deployed active duty U.S. military and National Guard troops to the border to assist in repelling the invasion. It was really an invasion. We will not allow our territory to be violated. After 4 long years, the United States is strong and sovereign and a beautiful nation once again. It's a strong, sovereign nation. In addition, I'm pleased to report that America is also a free nation once again. On day one, I signed an executive order to stop all government censorship. No longer will our government label the speech of our own citizens as misinformation or disinformation, which are the favorite words of censors and those who wish to stop the free exchange of ideas and, frankly, progress. We have saved free speech in America, and we've saved it strongly. With another historic executive order this week, I also ended the weaponization of law enforcement against the American people and, frankly, against politicians, and restored the fair, equal, and impartial rule of law. My administration has taken action to abolish all discriminatory diversity, equity, and inclusion nonsense. And these are policies that were absolute nonsense throughout the government and the private sector. With the recent yet somewhat unexpected great Supreme Court decision just made, America will once again become a merit-based country. You have to hear that word, merit-based country. And I've made it official, an official policy of the United States, that there are only 2 genders, male and female. And we will have no men participating in women's sports, and transgender operations, which became the rage, will occur very rarely. Finally, as we restore common sense in America, we're moving quickly to bring back strength and peace and stability abroad. I'm also going to ask all NATO nations to increase defense spending to 5% of GDP, which is what it should have been years ago. It was only at 2%, and most nations didn't pay until I came along. I insisted that they pay, and they did, because the United States was really paying the difference at that time, and it was unfair to the United States. But many, many things have been unfair for many years to the United States. Before even taking office, my team negotiated a ceasefire agreement in the Middle East, which wouldn't have happened without us, as I think most of the people in the room know. Earlier this week, the hostages began to return to their families. They are returning, and it's a beautiful sight, and they'll be coming in more and more. They started coming back on Sunday. Our efforts to secure a peace settlement between Russia and Ukraine are now hopefully underway. It's so important to get that done. That is an absolute killing field. Millions of soldiers are being killed. Nobody's seen anything like it since World War II. They're laying dead all over the flat fields. It's a flat field farmland, and there's millions of Russians and millions of Ukrainians, and nobody's seen anything like it since World War II. It's time to end it. And here in America, we have big events coming up. Next year, we have the 250th anniversary of America's founding. I'm so honored to be president during that. That's been a big event. They've been talking about it for 10 years. We also have the World Cup, and I understand Gianni's in the room. Infantino, he was very instrumental in helping us get it. He's there with you someplace, I think, and I want to thank him for that. And then we have the Olympics coming up, which I was instrumental in getting also in my first term. And who would have known that by skipping a term, I would get the Olympics? I was upset. I said, you know, I got the Olympics to come and I won't be president. But it turned out through a stroke of luck, or whatever you might call it, that I'm going to be president during the World Cup and the Olympics and the 250th anniversary. So that's going to be 3 big events. And we've accomplished more in less than 4 days. We have really been working 4 days than other administrations have accomplished in 4 years. And we're just getting started. It's really an amazing thing to see. And the spirit and the light over our country has been incredible. Under the last administration, our nation has suffered greatly, but we're going to bring it back and make it greater, bigger, stronger, better than ever before. I want to thank everybody for being with you. I would have been there myself, except the inauguration was 2 days ago. I thought it might be a little bit quick to make it the first stop, but we'll get there one day. We hope to get there. But I do appreciate, I heard the audience is fantastic, and many of my friends are in the audience, and I will be taking questions now from some very distinguished people. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for that very powerful speech. And I think you could hear the applause all the way from Davos to the White House. But next year it will be even better, because then you can get the applause here in Davos. So we wish you welcome to our village next year. We hope to see you.
Thank you very much.
So we also know, Mr. President, that you open up for interaction here. We have a great panel with some of the most distinguished business people in the world. Let me start with someone that you know really well, that I think is almost a neighbor of you in in Florida. Mr. Steve Schwarzman, Chairman, CEO, and co-founder of Blackstone Group. So, Steve, floor is yours.
Well, Mr. President, I'm sure the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia will be really glad you gave this speech today. You've had the busiest 4 days that anybody can imagine, and congratulations for that. My question is about some of the things I've observed here at Davos. It's a terrific forum. I've met lots of people, as usual. I think I've been here 30 years. And a lot of the European business people have expressed enormous frustration with the regulatory regime in the EU, and they attribute slower growth rates here because of the numerous factors, but especially because of regulations. And you've taken a completely different approach in this area. And if you could explain the theory of what you're doing, how you're going to do it, and what you expect the outcome to be, I'd appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much, and congratulations, Steve. You're a friend of mine, but on a great career. You have had an amazing career, and it continues. I just want to congratulate you. Very inspirational to a lot of people. I want to talk about the EU, because you mentioned specifically that I've also had a lot of friends and leaders of countries. I've gotten to know them all my first term and a little bit during this period of 4 years, and know them well, like them a lot. But they're very frustrated because of the time everything seems to take to get approved, environmental impact statements for things that you shouldn't even have to do that, and many, many other ways that it takes. And I'm going to give you a quick little example. In the private life, my beautiful private life, before I had all these things happening, the world is a little different. I had a nice, simple life. You knew that. But when I had that simple life, I did projects, and I had a big project in Ireland, and it had to get approval on something that would have made it even better. And I got the approval from Ireland in a period of a week. And it was a very, very, very efficient, good approval. And they informed me, though, the problem is you're going to have to get it from the EU, and we think that'll take 5 to 6 years. And I said, you have to be kidding. And this was before politics. And I said, wait a minute, it's not that important. I don't want to go 5 or 6 years, but it would have been a big investment. It would have been nice, and it would have been good for the project. And I sent the people to the EU to see if they could speed it up. And basically it was a 5 or 6 year wait just to get a simple approval that Ireland gave me in a period of literally not much more than a week. And I realized right then, that was the first time I really was involved with the EU, but I realized right then that's a problem, and I didn't even bother applying to do it. Or if I did, I pulled it very quickly. I have to be very accurate because I don't want to be criticized. He did apply, actually. No, I want to be very accurate. So I don't think I did, but if I did, I pulled it very quickly. It was just something you couldn't wait 5 years or 6 years to get an approval. So a lot of in a very big business sense, a lot of people are claiming that's the problem. From the standpoint of America, the EU treats us very, very unfairly, very badly. They have a large tax that we know about, and a VAT tax, and it's a very substantial one. They don't take essentially don't take our farm products, and they don't take our cars, yet they send cars to us by the millions. They put tariffs on things that we want to do. Like, for instance, I think they actually, in terms of, these are non-economic or non-monetary tariffs, and those are very bad, and they make it very difficult to bring products into Europe, and yet they expect to be selling, and they do sell their products in the United States. So we have, hundreds of billions of dollars of deficits with the EU. And nobody's happy with it, and we're going to do something about it, but nobody's happy with it. So I think the EU has to speed up their process. Friends of mine that are in some of the nations within the EU, great people, they want to be able to compete better, and you can't compete when you can't go through the approval process fast. There's no reason why it can't go faster. So, I'm trying to be constructive because I love Europe. I love the countries of Europe, but the process is a very cumbersome one. And they do treat the United States of America very, very unfairly with the VAT taxes and all of the other taxes they impose. One other, just to finish up, I got a call from the head of a major airline, one of the biggest airlines in the world. And he said, sir, could you help us? Landing in Europe is brutal. They charge us fees for everything, and it's so unfair. I said, how does it compare to China? He said, it's much worse. And the other thing, as you know, they took court cases with Apple, and they supposedly won a case that most people didn't think was much of a case. They won 15 or 16 billion from Apple. They won billions from Google. I think they're after Facebook for billions and billions. These are American companies, whether you like them or not. They're American companies, and they shouldn't be doing that. And that's, as far as I'm concerned, it's a form of taxation. So we have some very big complaints with the EU. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We'll now go to one of your friends in the EU, Patrick Pouyanné. He's the chairman and CEO of Total Energies. I guess you have a question ready, Patrick, for the president.
Mr. President, as we understand, energy is at the top of your agenda, and it's an honor for me to represent the energy industry tonight. In this panel, Total Energies is indeed the fourth largest oil and gas and electricity company in the world. I will not ask you a question about the oil price. It's quite clear what you expect from us. I will go to gas more. And our company is the largest #1 exporter LNG from the US company. We are a strong contributor to, and we invest in a mammoth LNG projects in Texas, $20 billion. It's far from 200, but it's $20 billion. And we contribute with that to security of supply to Europe, as we export this LNG to Europe. Some experts fear that if there are too many projects developed in the US on LNG, this could have an inflationary impact on the US domestic gas price. And they recommend a pause on these projects. I would ask you the following question. What are your views about such a pause on investments on LNG in the US? What would happen if you would observe an increased domestic gas price because of these exports? And final question, which is important for Europe, would you agree to guarantee security of supply of US LNG to Europe?
Well, on the last part of your question, yes, I would. I would make sure that you get it. If we make a deal, we make a deal, you'll get it. Because a lot of people do have that problem. They make a deal and then it can't get supplied because of war-type problems and other problems. So we would absolutely do that. LNG is very interesting because when I took office for the first term, one of the first things I looked at was there were two very massive plants in Louisiana, a state that has been very good to me, won it by many, many points. And I felt strongly indebted to it, actually. And they said there are two plants that have been under environmental consideration for more than 10 years. And they were costing, as you say, you know how expensive those plants are, but they were costing like 12 billion and I think 14 or 15 billion, but they couldn't get their permits. They were in review for years, many, many years, like a decade or more. And I said, so ridiculous. I know so much about that because in the construction industry, I had to go through it too, but I got good at it after a while. But I saw the projects, and you're talking about a total investment of 25 to $30 billion, and it looked like it was going to end. They couldn't get their permits, and I got them done in less than a week. It was done, completed. In fact, when they called them to announce that it was done, the countries, largely countries, Japan was involved and another country and some very big investors, they couldn't believe it. They actually couldn't believe it. And I said, just do yourself one favor. Don't pay any consultants, because the only one that got it done was me. I got it done because it was the right thing to do for the U.S. and for the world, but the consultants had nothing to do with it. You know, the consultants go in and they say, give us millions of dollars because Trump did it. Nobody called me about it. I just heard it was a problem for years. And I got it done because it was the right thing to do for the U.S. and the right thing to do for beyond. It had to do with energy, very important. So I think it's very important. I think I disagree with one. I think the more that you do, the lower the price is going to go. And what I'd like to see is rapid approvals. We're going to give very rapid approvals in the United States, like with the AI plants, talking to many people want to build them. That's going to be a very big thing. We're going to build electric generating facilities. They are going to build. I'm going to get them the approval. Under emergency declaration, I can get the approvals done myself without having to go through years of waiting. And the big problem is we need double the energy we currently have in the United States. Can you imagine? For AI to really be as big as we want to have it, because it's a very competitive, it'll be very competitive with China and others. So I'm going to give emergency declarations so that they can start building them almost immediately. And I think it was largely my idea because nobody thought this was possible. It wasn't that they were not smart, because they're the smartest. But I told them that what I want you to do is build your electric generating plant right next to your plant as a separate building, connected. And they said, wow, you're kidding. And I said, no, I'm not kidding. You don't have to hook into the grid, which is old and, could be taken out. If it's taken out, they wouldn't have any way to get any electricity. So we are going to allow them to go on a very rapid basis to build their plant, build the electric generating plant. They can fuel it with anything they want, and they may have coal as a backup, good, clean coal, If there were a problem with a pipe coming in, as an example, you're going with gas, oil or gas, and a pipe gets blown up or for some reason doesn't work, there are some companies in the U.S. that have coal sitting right by the plant so that if there's an emergency, they can go to that short-term basis and use our very clean coal. So that's something else that a lot of people didn't even know about, but nothing can destroy coal, not the weather, not a bomb, nothing. It might make it a little smaller, might make it a little different shape, but coal is very strong as a backup. It's a great backup to have that facility, and it wouldn't cost much more money. And we have more coal than anybody. We also have more oil and gas than anybody. So we're going to make it so that the plants will have their own electric generating facilities attached right to their plant. They don't have to worry about a utility. They don't have to worry about anything. And we're going to get very rapid approvals.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. President. We'll now go to another CEO that you know very well, Brian Moynihan, the CEO and Chair of Bank of America.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, and congratulations, and obviously eventful week for you and your family. If you remember 5 years ago, you came here and we walked among 150 CEOs from all over the world, and you engaged with them about your policies and your procedures. This year, you're not here, and yet this week was eventful from the orders that you mentioned earlier, literally a wave of orders coming out on immigration, on trade, and many other matters. And so, as a representative of the United States here, we got a lot of questions about what does all this mean and how would the president square this with his clear focus on growth, prosperity, market growth, stock market growth, a good bond market, and bringing down prices. So how do you think about the impact of all these orders and how fast they come out, and how you're going to balance them with that scorecard of being successful in both continuing GDP growth, bringing down inflation, and also having a good stock price appreciation for the American citizen?
Well, I think it's going to actually bring down inflation. It's going to bring up jobs. We're going to have a lot of jobs. We're going to have a lot of companies moving in. Brian, we're at 21%. It was at 40%, and I got it down to 21%, the corporate tax. And it was actually, if you look at state and city, it was in many cases much higher than 40%. I got it down to 21%. And now we're going to bring it down from 21 to 15% if, there's a big if you make your product in the U.S. So we're going to have the lowest, just about the lowest rate. It'll be, the 21 is on the low side worldwide. The 15 is about as low as it gets. And by far the lowest of a large country, a large, rich, powerful country by far, not even a contest. So we're going to bring it down to 15% if you make your product in the USA. So that's going to create a tremendous buzz. We're also probably going back to the 1 year deduction where we deduct, we did that originally, and that was amazing what the impact that had, the 1 year deduction, which built up over a period of time, and then it expires But we're going to go back to that when we do the renewal of the Trump tax plan. We have to get Democrats to approve it. But, if the Democrats didn't approve it, I don't know how they can survive with about a 45% tax increase, because that's what it would be. And so I think they're going to do. We've been working along with them pretty well. I think it's very hard for a political group to say, let's charge people 45% more. So I think we're in good shape, but we're actually doing a reduction for business and small businesses where you're going to bring it down to 15%, which is really something. And by the way, speaking of you, and you've done a fantastic job, but I hope you start opening your bank to conservatives, because many conservatives complain that the banks are not allowing them to do business within the bank. And that included a place called Bank of America. They don't take conservative business. And I don't know if the regulators mandated that because of Biden or what, but you and Jamie and everybody, I hope you're going to open your banks to conservatives, because what you're doing is wrong.
Mr. President, I'll say that your friend Gianni said hello, told me to tell you hello, and we look forward to sponsoring the World Cup when it comes, both this summer for the club and next year. So thank you for getting that for the United States.
Thank you very much, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. President. We'll now go to Ana Butin. She's the executive chairman of Banco Santander, one of the big European banks, and also in the U.S. So, Ana.
Mr. President, congratulations on a historic victory. I believe you don't know me as well as my fellow panelists, so a few words. Santander is one of the largest banks in the world by number of customers, 170 million. That's more than my friend Brian or my friend Jamie have. And those...
They fixed the regulation.
That's coming.
That was cheeky.
We are a big investor in the United States. We have many million customers, 12,000 employees. We're one of the largest auto lenders. And we recently launched a fully digital bank called Open Bank. We strongly believe banks have a pivotal role in the economy, and we can accelerate growth and help many more customers. That's what we're doing in the United States. So, as Brian pointed out, we very much welcome your focus on deregulation and reducing bureaucracy. So my question is, what are your priorities in this regard, and how fast is this going to happen? Thank you very much.
I think it's going to, thank you and congratulations. I know very much about your bank, and you've done a fantastic job. Congratulations. We are going to move very quickly. We've moved very quickly. We've done things in the last 3 days that nobody thought were possible to do in years. And it's all taking effect. It's going to have a huge impact on the economy, a huge positive impact. Money was being wasted on crazy things. I mean, the Green New Deal was such a total disgrace, how that was perpetrated. And it was conceived of by people that were average students, less than average students, I might add, and never even took a course in energy or the environment. It was just a game. Remember, the world was going to end in 12 years? Remember that? Well, the 12 years has come and gone. It was going to end. It was going to all foam into earth. But, you know, the time has come. These people, and they really scared the Democrats large. I can't say the Republicans. The Republicans maybe could have fought harder to stop it, but it's been a tremendous waste of money. You know, during my 4 years, we had the cleanest air, we had the cleanest water, and yet we had the most productive economy in the history of our country. We had the most productive economy. Until COVID came, we had the most productive in the history of our country by far. And actually, you could look worldwide. We were beating everybody from China to everybody else. So, and we think we really now, with what we have learned and all of the other things that have taken place, we think we can even far surpass that, actually far surpass it. But we do, one thing we're going to be demanding is we're going to be demanding respect from other nations. Canada, we have a tremendous deficit with Canada. We're not going to have that anymore. We can't do it. I don't know if it's good for them. As you probably know, I say you can always become a state And if you're a state, we won't have a deficit. We won't have to tariff you, et cetera, et cetera. But Canada has been very tough to deal with over the years. And it's not fair that we should have a $200 billion or $250 billion deficit. We don't need them to make our cars, and they make a lot of them. We don't need their lumber because we have our own forests, et cetera, et cetera. We don't need their oil and gas. We have more than anybody. So, just as an example, with Mexico, we're dealing with Mexico, I think, very well. And we're just, we just want to be treated fairly with other nations, because there's hardly a nation in the world, and I blame this on us, and I blame it on politicians that, for some reason, mostly it's stupidity, but you could also say other reasons, but mostly stupidity. They've allowed other nations to take advantage of the U.S., and we can't allow that to happen anymore. We have debt. It's a very small debt when you compare it to the value of the assets that we have, but we don't want to do that. We want to just have debt be obliterated, and we'll be able to do that fairly rapidly. And a lot of good things are going to happen. And honestly, good things are going to happen for the world, and good things are going to happen for the people that are dealing with us, allies and beyond allies. One thing very important, I really would like to be able to meet with President Putin soon and get that war ended. And that's not from the standpoint of economy or anything else. It's from the standpoint of millions of lives are being wasted. Beautiful young people are being shot in the battlefield. The bullet, very flat land, as I said, and the bullet goes, there's no hiding. And a bullet, the only thing going to stop the bullet is a human body. And you have to see, I've seen pictures of what's taken place. It's a carnage, and we really have to stop that war. That war is horrible. And I'm not talking economy. I'm not talking economics. I'm not talking about natural resource. I'm just talking about there's so many young people being killed in this war. And that's not including the people that have been killed as the cities are being, knocked down building by building. So we really should get that stopped. Likewise, in the Middle East, I think we've made a lot of progress in the Middle East, and I think that's gonna come along pretty well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. So we know that the most consequential relationship in the world is between the U.S. and China. U.S. 28% of the global economy, China close to 20%. That's almost half of the global GDP. And we know that you called President Xi Jinping last Friday. We heard that you had a good discussion. How do you see the relationship between the U.S. and China in the next 4 years under your leadership?
He called me, but I see it very good. I think that we're going to have a very good relationship. All we want is fairness. We just want a level playing field. We don't want to take advantage. We've been having massive deficits with China. Biden allowed it to get out of hand. He's $1.1 trillion deficit. It's ridiculous. And it's just an unfair relationship. And we have to make it just fair. We don't have to make it phenomenal. We have to make it a fair relationship. Right now, it's not a fair relationship. The deficit is massive, as it is with other countries, a lot of Asian countries, actually. But we have deficits that are very big, and we can't keep doing that. So we're not going to keep doing that. But I like President Xi very much. I've always liked him. We always had a very good relationship. It was very strained with COVID coming out of Wuhan. Obviously, that strained it. I'm sure it strained it with a lot of people, but that strained our relationship. But we always had a great relationship, I would say, and we look forward to doing very well with China and getting along with China. Hopefully, China can help us stop the war with, in particular, Russia, Ukraine. And they have a great deal of power over that situation. And we'll work with them. And I mentioned that during our phone conversation with President Xi. And hopefully we could work together and get that stopped. We'd like to see denuclearization. In fact, with President Putin, prior to an election result, which was frankly ridiculous, we were talking about denuclearization of our two countries, and China would have come along. China has a much smaller right now nuclear armament than us, or field than us, but they're going to be catching it at some point over the next 4 or 5 years. And I will tell you that President Putin really liked the idea of cutting way back on nuclear. And I think the rest of the world, we would have gotten them to follow. And China would have come along too. China also liked it. Tremendous amounts of money are being spent on nuclear. And the destructive capability is something that we don't even want to talk about today because you don't want to hear it. It's too depressing. So we want to see if we can denuclearize, and I think that's very possible. And I can tell you that President Putin wanted to do it. He and I wanted to do it. We had a good conversation with China. They would have been involved, and that would have been an unbelievable thing for the planet.
Mr. President, when you're back here in Davos next year, will there be then a peace agreement with Ukraine and Russia by then?
Well, you're going to have to ask Russia. Ukraine is ready to make a deal. Just so you understand, this is a war that should have never started. If I were president, it would never have started. This is a war that should have never, ever been started. And it wasn't started during there was never even talk about it. I knew that it was the apple of President Putin's eye, but I also knew that there was no way he was going in, and he wasn't going to go in. And then when I was out, bad things happened, bad things were said, a lot of stupidity all around, and you end up with what you have. Now you have all these bombed out cities that look like demolition sites with many people killed. I think the thing that you'll see about Ukraine is that far more people have died than is being reported. And I've seen that. But far, far more people have died. When you look at a city that's become a demolition site where big buildings have been collapsed by missiles hitting them and everything else, and they say one person was slightly injured. No, many people were killed. Those are big buildings. I was surprised at how that was my business. These are buildings that go 2 and 3 blocks long. They're 20 stories high. They're big, powerful buildings, and they were knocked down, and there were a lot of people in those buildings. That announced that 2 people were injured. That's not true. So I think you're going to find that there were many more people killed in Ukraine in the Ukraine war than anybody has any idea. But if you look now, so many of the people being killed are soldiers just facing each other with guns, rifles, and drones, the new form of warfare, drones. And it's a very sad thing to see. And when you see pictures of the fields that I see, nobody wants to see it. You'll never be the same.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, on behalf of all the 3,000 participants here in Davos. We really underline that joining us the third day in your presidency, live taking questions here is so appreciated, and we are already ready for receiving you next year in person. So thank you very much, and all the best from Davos.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Shout out to the legend, the 45th, the 47th President of the United States. This is what we have been missing for 4 years. Take a listen to what a leader sounds like. This is what we've been missing. People are saying, why is he talking to World Economic Forum? He is the leader of the free world. He has to be a diplomat. You can't isolate yourself. You can't be on the beach sleeping. You have to go talk to these leaders. You have to talk to business leaders. You have to talk to everybody. Okay? Even your enemies, you have to keep them close. This is why people voted for Trump, because they know with Trump in the White House, you have adults who is willing to have a dialogue, who is willing to converse with any and everybody who wants to listen. And this is why people respect him. This is why the leaders of the world are now coming together to make a deal. Nobody wants smoke with this man because they know he's willing to come to the table to have a conversation. He's not going to run away and hide and say, you know what, that person is the enemy. We should not even open a dialogue with that person. No, he's going to talk to Putin. He's going to talk to Xi Jinping. He's going to talk to whoever. Kim Jong-un is going to talk to whoever, as long as you have some sort of power that could be potentially dangerous to the world. You have to open a dialogue. This is what being the leader of the free world is. You're not just going to sit on the beach and send someone to say, don't. Don't do what? All right, this is Hannity and, of course, the legend yesterday.
You stated that you will release the files, all of the files, as it relates to the JFK assassination. The moment you walked back in this office, this desk, this room, your carpet, how'd you feel?
Well, it was a lot of work.
Do you believe that moment? People say to me, they see.
All right, this interview right here is something I've been waiting to check out. But we're about to check it out right now. Are you ready? Double tap your screen, subscribe to the channel. It is definitely going to be fun. Yeah, we have a lot to talk about today for sure. All right.
For an exclusive first interview in front of the Resolute desk. Mr. President.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Let's talk about the moment you walked back in this office, this desk, this room, your carpet. How'd you feel?
Well, it was a lot of work. And as you know, I felt that we shouldn't have had to necessarily be here. Could have been done, a lot of work. Could have been, it would have been over. We wouldn't have inflation. We wouldn't have had the Afghanistan disaster. We wouldn't have October 7th with Israel, where so many people were killed. And you wouldn't have a Ukraine war going on. But with all that being said, I think it's bigger. It's bigger than if it were more traditional.
Only the second time in history somebody didn't have consecutive terms.
Yeah. Well, they say it's historically bigger. I don't know about that. But I can say it showed us a couple of things. It showed us that the radical left, their philosophies and policies are horrible. They don't work. You look at crime, you look at what's gone on at the border, you look at what's going to happen, the crime that's going to happen. But I think we got there just in the nick of time. But we still have you covered better than anybody. We have terrorists in our country by the thousands. We have murderers in our country by the tens of thousands. We have numbers that came out, 11,000 people that murdered are now free and walking around in our country. And of them, I think 48%, they say, killed more than one person, and they're walking around. They came out of jails from other countries. And, people, they've emptied their jails. I would, if I were the president or prime minister or something of another country, I'd empty my jails right into America, into the United States. Why not? And many of them did it. If you look at Venezuela, their crime rate is down now 78% because they took their street gangs and they moved them into the United States. And you're seeing that in Colorado and Los Angeles and other places. And we're going to take care of it.
So did Biden really say to you when you came up to the front of the White House, welcome home?
No, did somebody say that?
I read it somewhere.
I don't know. Maybe he did. I really don't know.
So you left him a letter. It was funny with Peter Doocy, and Peter said, "Oh, Mr. President, did Joe Biden leave you a letter?" He did leave you a letter.
He did.
And you had left him one, but you've never disclosed either one of them.
Well, a lot of people.
Now would be a great time.
You know, it was interesting. A lot of people thought it was sort of like a setup with Peter Doocy and myself, and I have a lot of respect for Peter. But he just asked me a question about the letter. And then I remember that, it's like a custom, you leave it right in the drawer of that beautiful desk right alongside of us. And so I opened it up, and I actually gave the letter to Peter.
And did he got to read it?
I guess. I haven't.
You don't know if he read it?
Yeah, I just sent it to him a little while ago.
All right. Before we get into, there's so much substance. You are inheriting a lot of problems, a lot of things that actually scare me. And I want to get to all of that, but I will get to all of that.
All solvable problems.
I agree.
They're all solvable.
Not easy.
With time, effort, money, unfortunately, but they're all solvable problems. We can get our country back. But if we didn't win this race, I really believe our country would have been lost forever.
Were there moments, I mean, when you think of what they threw at you. And I know you signed this declaration about no more weaponization. And we know that the preemptive pardons came up on Joe's way out. But you were facing a civil trial, a criminal trial, conviction, sentencing, Jack Smith, D.C., Florida, Fonnie Willis. I mean, you fought through all of that to get back right here in this office. What people don't know is over there's a little red button you push. You scare people. People think it's the nuclear button, but it's really,
something else.
It's you use it for a different purpose. But the question I have was, at any point, did you doubt you would be back here?
So it's a great question. It's something I don't think about. I never really thought about it. I don't think about, gee, will I be back? I just do it. I get it done. I get things done. I'm good at getting things done, and I set my mind to it. As you know, we had a great election in 2016. I had a much better election in 2020. And if I didn't have that election, I wouldn't have run. If I thought that I didn't get the number of votes, and it was reported that I got almost 75 million votes, and that was their numbers. That wasn't the numbers. That was their numbers. That was more than anybody has gotten in history, any sitting president had ever gotten. And you lost. Had I gotten like 50 million, or 40 million, or 60 million, I would never have run. But that was like a poll. But I had a different attitude. Too big to rig.
Poll came out just in the last 24 hours by Insider Advantage. That's Matt Towery. Mm-hmm. He nailed 2016, 2020, right, and 2024. Great pollster, as you know.
Right.
And he gave you a 56% approval rating. He also said of Congress, and I had a town hall with members of Congress last night, that 70% of respondents want Congress to unite behind your agenda.
I watched that show. It was a great show, and you had some great people in the background. Yeah. I know every one of them, and they're really patriots. I just saw the love, as the speaker, who was doing a terrific job. The speaker is answering questions, and I saw the acknowledgement and the love they had. And those are tough people behind him. These are not easy people.
There are others that are tougher.
I said, well, I don't know. This is a tough group if they want to be. They're not, nobody much tougher. But they're very unified. I think they're going to do a great job.
But they have a small majority. You went through over 200 since we've got here. And we have breaking news today that we'll get to in a minute. And especially as it relates to the border and some other issues. But you're going to need to do some of these things legislatively. You will probably play the largest role in uniting them both in the House and Senate. Reconciliation, the Senate has very strict, rules governing how they can do it. Do you, one big beautiful bill, two bills, do you care at this point?
I don't care as long as we get to the final answer. I like the concept of the one bill. I guess I said one big beautiful, and that's what everyone faces. Actually, it's sort of a nice sound to it. But I do like that concept. It could be something else. It could be a smaller bill and a big bill. Right. But as long as we get to the right answer. Now, I will say that Los Angeles has changed everything because a lot of money is going to be necessary for Los Angeles. And a lot of people on the other side want that to happen. And
North Carolina, too.
Fast. Well, they don't care about North Carolina. The Democrats don't care about North Carolina. What they've done with FEMA is so bad. FEMA is a whole nother discussion because all it does is complicate everything. FEMA has not done their job for the last 4 years. I had FEMA working really well. We had hurricanes in Florida. We had Alabama tornadoes. But unless you have certain types of leadership, it gets in the way. And FEMA is going to be a whole big discussion very shortly because I'd rather see the states take care of their own problems. If they have a tornado someplace, and let that state. Oklahoma is very competent. I love Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. 77 out of 77 districts. And that's never been done before. I did it 3 times. I mean, think of it. 3 times. Never been done. Ronald Reagan had the record, 56 out of 77. I got 77 out of 77. So you have to love a place like that. I love Oklahoma. But you know what? If they get hit with a tornado or something, let Oklahoma fix it. You don't need. And then the federal government can help them out with the money.
What do you?
The FEMA is getting in the way of everything, and the Democrats actually use FEMA not to help North Carolina.
It makes no sense.
So I'm stopping on Friday. I'm stopping in North Carolina, first stop, because those people were treated very badly by Democrats. And I'm stopping there. We're going to get that thing straightened out because they're still suffering from a hurricane from months ago. And then I'm going to go to California.
Will you meet with Gavin?
I don't know. I haven't even thought about it. Look, Gavin's got one thing he can do. He can release the water that comes from the north. There is massive amounts of water, rainwater and mountain water that comes due with the snow, comes down as it melts. There's so much water, they're releasing it into the Pacific Ocean. And I told him, it's a political thing for the Democrats. I don't know.
Played the tape. You said it to him in front of him in 2018.
I said it to him in front of the media and everything else, and nobody talks about it. The media never picks it up. You put it out. I was so happy to see that tape because some people said, is that possible? They have water coming down from the Pacific Northwest, which has a lot of water. So much water that they'd have to let some of it go at some point. They don't need reservoirs. They don't need any. They're spending all this money on these reservoirs, and they're fake reservoirs. You know,
But the reservoirs were empty. The hydrants didn't work, and they're not practicing the science of forestry, which is
the sprinklers didn't work in the homes because they had no water. Think of it. We have sprinklers. Think of it with no water. They didn't have any water. The fire hydrants, believe it, hard to believe. The place has sprinklers. It's nice. But you don't want to lose this office. By the way, how do you like it?
Well, I'm glad. It's great to be back. I'm not going to lie.
You know, I've had the biggest people in the world come here, and they come into the Oval Office, and they just look, and they want time to look. They're looking around. George Washington, Honest Abe.
One day, maybe we can do a tour. We had a conversation, and maybe I shouldn't disclose this, but I will. And it was after the 2020 election. And you asked me a question, and we've known each other for 30 years, so we have a friendship and we have a professional relationship. And the question you asked me, maybe in the end it will be better that if I came back in 4 years. And we talked about history. After World War II, Winston Churchill was thrown out, but they brought him back. Grover Cleveland is the only other American president that did not serve consecutive terms. And my answer to you was, I thought it would be bigger if you came back.
It's turning out to be bigger. And I think one thing is happening is people are learning that they can't govern and that their policies are terrible. I mean, they don't want to see a woman get pummeled by a man in a boxing ring.
No.
They don't want to see men in women's sports, in other words. They don't want to see them, and they don't want to have transgender for everyone. They don't want a child leave home as a boy and come back 2 days later as a girl. A parent doesn't want to see that. And there are states where that can happen.
Oh.
They don't want to see taxes go through the roof. Like, this is the only group of people they want to raise your taxes. They say, we want to raise your taxes. You know, if they don't work with us on the Trump tax cuts extending, that would mean we go back to the taxes. We got the largest tax cut in history. That would mean the taxes would go up more than any tax hike in the history of our country. And normally you'd say, that's got to be the easiest negotiation in history, because if they did that, how could they ever win an election? But they'll fight us on that. They fight us on things. It's incredible.
Here, I ran into...
They don't use common sense. In my opinion, the Democrats don't use common sense.
I think common sense won the day in the election.
Yeah, but you know the amazing thing? I'm watching now. Now it's time, and, you know, a few months have passed, and the election's over, and you see what happened, and it was a rout. I won all 7 swing states, and we won by millions of votes, the popular vote, millions. And nobody can even believe some of the numbers. And how about with African Americans, with Hispanics, with everything, how well we did? Nobody can believe the numbers. How about with youth? I won youth by 36 points. Now, maybe that's because I went on TikTok. I don't know. But I'm starting to have a very warm spot.
TikTok is going to be sold, right?
I think TikTok's going to maybe stay around.
People like
I'll tell you, people want to buy it. People want to buy it.
But those that say they know say it's a spying app for the communist Chinese.
But, but you can say that about everything made in China. Look, we have our telephones made in China for the most part. We have so many things made in China. So why don't they mention that? You know,
Let me get to
the
some
interesting
issues.
thing with TikTok, though, is you're dealing with a lot of young people. So
They love it.
is it that important for China to be spying on young people, on young kids watching crazy videos on things?
I don't want China spying on anybody.
No, but they make your telephones and they make your computers and they make a lot of other things. Isn't that a bigger threat?
I'm sure that'll be part of your discussions with President Xi, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. Let me go to the border. We do have breaking news today. I ran into Tom Homan as I was walking in today.
Right.
And so far, 308 total arrests, 296 detainees, and the first deployment of military assets to the U.S. border. The deployment includes active duty troops in the National Guard.
Right.
And here's my biggest fear and concern beyond the Iranian assassination squads is we now know 14 million. We don't know how many gotaways. We don't know the total number. But we have known terrorists in our country. Mm-hmm. We have known murderers, rapists. We have violent criminals, cartel members, gang members. Now, I would imagine if you came from Iran and Syria and Egypt and Afghanistan and Russia and China and Venezuela, you didn't come here because you want a better life for your children. I would imagine those known terrorists are planning an attack on our homeland. At a moment's notice, you're going to be in this desk, maybe sitting at this desk or maybe up in the residence, and they're going to call you down in the Situation Room because our homeland is under attack. I would like to be wrong, but when you have known terrorists, you have to believe that they are going to attack our homeland. Mm-hmm. That would change their trajectory, that moment of your entire presidency. That has to weigh on you.
Yeah, it could be. And I know I've watched you for a lot of years, and you actually make one statement before you say that. You say 100% certain.
I do.
That's a pretty big statement.
And then I say, I pray to God I'm wrong.
Yeah, I hope you're wrong too. And I won't comment, but I tend to agree with you. It depends. We'll see what happens. Look, we have a lot of great people right now, a lot of great people on this situation. This was a gross miscarriage of common sense to allow people to come in. And I believe the number is 21 million people, and a large percentage of them are criminals all over the world. This is not just South America. This isn't, we talk Venezuela, that's a big abuser, but these are countries from
Iran,
the
Syria?
Congo, countries that you don't even think of. The Congo has emptied their prisons out into the United States. We're not thinking about the Congo. We're thinking about South America. It's much more than South America. But prisons from all over the world have been emptied out into our country by Biden, allowing it to happen. I don't even know if he knew what the hell was going on. But who would want this? I always say to people, you always like to understand, like in a business here, you want to understand the other side. Why do they want something, et cetera, and you figure it out. And there's usually an answer, almost always. I don't understand, why does somebody want open borders where, and they say the vote, okay, but I did well with the Hispanic vote, if you're looking at Hispanic. They say they do it because they want to think they're going to stay in power, it's going to be better for Democrats. I don't really believe that. Besides that, they cheat so much, they don't have to do that. They cheat so well, they're very good at cheating. The only thing they're good at really is cheating. But here's the thing I ask. Why would somebody say that open borders are good, where jails and mental institutions from other countries and gang members right off the streets of the toughest cities in the world are being brought to the United States of America and emptied out into our country? Why would anybody that even likes, you don't have to love our country, you have to like it. Why would anybody that likes our country, the Democrats, allow that to happen? And even now, I watch them on television, they're trying to justify it. You can't justify it. The only reason it can be is two reasons. You're stupid, and I don't think they're stupid. I think anybody that cheats that much and that well is not stupid. You're either stupid or you hate the country. Those are the only two reasons. Sean, who would ask for open borders with people pouring in, some of whom, I won't get into it, but you can look at them and you can say, could be trouble, could be trouble. There are people coming in.
There are people with gang tattoos on.
There are people coming in with tattoos all over their face. Their entire face is covered with tattoos.
That identifies
Typically, he's not going to be the head of the local bank.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey,
Oh my goodness, this man right here. He is a commander in chief and he is also a man with great humor. All right, we're going to watch the part 2 of that interview right now. Check it out.
48 hours, President Trump granted more access to the press than his predecessor did in 4 long years. Here's part 2 of our exclusive interview. What do you do, sanctuary states? By definition, or sanctuary cities, they're aiding and abetting in the law breaking. Okay, they're going to get federal funds.
Yeah. We're trying to get rid of them. We're trying to end them, and a lot of the people in those communities don't want them. You know, California is a big
Would
example.
you cut off their money?
I might have to do that. Sometimes that's the only thing you can do. Look, California is a great example of it. If you actually poll the people, they don't want sanctuary cities, but Gavin Newsom does, and these radical left politicians do. And, you know, if you asked them why, they couldn't even. I watched Gavin Newsom try to answer that question. He was unable to even answer. He looked like an idiot. He was unable to answer. I asked him one other question. Why is it that you don't want millions of gallons of water a day pouring throughout California? You know, the farmland in California is, they say, the equivalent of Iowa, great land, but it's got no water. And you sit there, and it's literally, you can see it burning. It's on flame.
Sure.
All they need is water in that big farmland. And I ask him, why? How is it possible that you're not allowing this water? They divert it out to the Pacific Ocean, where it drops into the ocean. And you know what it's like? It's like nothing. To the Pacific Ocean, it's like 2 glasses of water. It's nothing. Millions of gallons of water is diverted way up north in California into the Pacific Ocean. That water, you know, they have the pipes in it. It's half pipes. You see them all the time. Half pipes. People live in those half pipes now. You know, they have homeless living in those half pipes. But this is water that millions of gallons of water a week and a day in some cases, you know, depending on the flow. So much water they wouldn't know what to do with it. Your sprinklers would be filled. They can even, remember when I took criticism because I said you have to manage your forests? The head of a country that lives in forests, a number of them actually, Finland told me this, Austria told me this, head of Austria, head of Finland. And it was beautiful the way they expressed it. They said, we live in a forest. We are a forest nation. That's beautiful, isn't it, to say that? We have trees that are the most magnificent in the world, far more beautiful than what they have in California, and much more flammable. Mm-hmm. He said, we don't have forest fires. We manage our forests.
You can get a degree in forestry.
Well, they'll do cuts, yeah. Can you imagine? But you don't need much. You have to clean the floors of the forest. You know, when they had forests, I go to see some of the sites. I watched in California. They use billions of dollars of money. And they do say, you know, I mean, look at what happened. Los Angeles, that's like a nuclear weapon went off, what's happened to Los Angeles. And, you know, that thing went for 4 or 5 days. Nobody was even fighting it because they didn't have any water. Their fire departments aren't funded properly. And the firefighters were brave as hell. They were fighting without water. I mean, they turn on a fire hydrant, there's no water that comes out, and they're sitting, and the fires are rushing at them at 30, 40 miles an hour. Those firefighters.
How is this not common sense? You don't have water in your fire hydrant, and you have this man that you call the leader of your state, Governor Gavin Newsom. He was shutting down dams. What is that? You know your city, your state is dry. Just wow.
Fighters were brave. What happened to that state is incredible. And then you listen to, I remember when Ron DeSantis and Gavin Newsom were debating on your show.
Yeah.
And Newsom's talking like, everything's great. Oh, everything's great, just great, just great. More people left California this year than ever have left in history before the fire. But look at it. Take a look. And, you know, the amazing thing, these are wealthy people. Many wealthy people lost their homes. I saw somebody on television, one of the wealthiest people, one of the most powerful people in the country, being interviewed as though he were a vagrant. His shirt was, and you have to know him, he's a mean, horrible human being. He's a tough guy, very tough guy, a horrible person, but he's very rich. And
he's rich, but he's a horrible person.
No, he's a horrible human being. I know you have rich people that are very
agree.
nice, but this guy's a terrible person. So I say, that's so-and-so. I said to Melania, I said, look at it. They were interviewing him as a guy that lost his house. He said, they took my house away. And he's literally in his underwear and his T-shirt. It looked like he just got out of the bedroom. And I say, that's one of the wealthiest guys in the country. Look at this guy. Take a look at him. Someday I'll tell you the name, maybe after the interview.
Okay.
But you won't even believe it. But he was on television as somebody that, and he was complaining they wouldn't let him go to his house, which was on fire. They wouldn't let him go because, you know, they don't want him to die. No, some of the wealthiest, most powerful people lost their homes. And it looked like our country was helpless. This fire was just raging, and then it would catch to another area, another area, another area. There was nothing. It took a week and a half, and I've never seen anything like it. We look so weak.
You give, obviously Americans want to help other Americans in need, okay? Fair enough, we do that. We got to help the people in North Carolina. They've been suffering.
Well, you know that's what I want to do. That's why I'm stopping there first.
You're going to stop in California?
I'm stopping in North Carolina.
Should the money be
first.
contingent on them practicing the science of forestry?
Well, I think this. I'm going to put a statement out today, I think, and maybe it's already written. I said, I don't think we should give California anything until they let water flow down into their state.
From the north to the south.
This is a political thing. I don't know what it is. You know, they talk about the Delta smelt. It's a little tiny fish like this. They say it's an endangered species. Well, how is it endangered? No wonder it's endangered. It's not getting any water. How do you, if you have a fish and you're stopping the water, isn't that going to hurt the fish?
I did a show in 2009 from the San Joaquin Valley, Devin Nunes' district.
Right.
And they wouldn't give thousands of acres of farmland water to protect that.
By the way, you see that now. I drove up the highway. I was with Devin Nunes and other Republican congressmen. And I looked at these vast areas of land, and it looked like it was just burning. It was dark. It was dry. And then there'd be a little patch, little tiny patch of green, beautiful green. And I said, why? How come all this land has these little patches? They said, that's all that we're allowed to farm because we have no water. I said, are you having a drought? No. They've turned off the water. They turned off the spigot from up north in order to protect the Delta smelt.
Let me move on to the
And by the way, I don't really believe it's the Delta smelt because nobody could do that.
It's not
endangered either. They have it in other locations, et cetera, et cetera.
They're doing seemingly everything they could do, like New York is in many ways, to chase people away.
No, but could you imagine today?
It's crazy.
When people, and the press doesn't like, when I talk about the water that they're turning into the Pacific, the press never wants to put it on. The fake news. They don't want to put it on, Sean.
You do realize that you have permanently tattooed into the forehead of legacy media the term fake news. You do realize they spent 9 years, 9 years attacking you from the moment you came down that escalator, and they didn't stop. And here's the interesting part to me, is that all of the attacks, all the weaponization, all the FISA warrants, all the Russia, and we can go on, all the various venues, the J6 committee, which kept out a lot of pertinent information.
And how about the J6 committee? I call it the unselect. You know, they say the select.
But they didn't win.
No. What they did was criminal. That's why they got pardoned.
No, I'm saying
they deleted and destroyed all of the information that they collected over 2 years.
Why else would they need a pardon?
And you know why? Because it proved I was right. All of that information was deleted and destroyed. They deleted all of the information having to do with the 10,000 soldiers that I offered to Nancy Pelosi, and she's now on tape admitting it.
I have 4 of the 5 people on tape, and General Milley was the 5th in writing, all saying that you authorized it in the days leading up. The Capitol Police Chief asked for the Guard, was begging for the Guard. Muriel Bowser, in writing, denied the use of the Guard.
But Nancy Pelosi even more strongly denied it.
She said that.
She was responsible for the whole thing.
She took responsibility.
And she took responsibility for her daughter
Yeah.
When it was exposed, they found the daughter's tape, a videotape of her mother saying that she was responsible. And you know what? And they try to lose it. But
let me move on to the economy.
unselect, remember the
I hear a lot of people talking about, well, Trump hasn't ended the war in Russia. And it's like, this guy, on the first day, on the first night, all right, he started the process of renaming the Gulf of Mexico, the Gulf of America. Okay, he established the Department of Government Efficiency, known as DOGE. He delayed the enforcement of federal ban on TikTok, declared emergency at border. He left the World Health Organization, froze federal hiring, ended DEI, signed the housing bill. Like, what else do you want? He signed 42 executive orders with 200 actions on them. What do you expect? This is the most efficient president in probably in human history. The speed is undeniable. He is very optimistic, high energy. You can't even deny that. Even CNN is like, yo, what in the world is going on here? You gotta give him his flowers, man.
committee, these people that were appointed, all Democrats, plus two worse than Democrats, that's crying Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney, who lost her congressional seat by more than any person in the history of Congress. She lost by a number that nobody has ever lost by. You know why? Because usually when you have a poll and you're down by like 40 or 50 points, you're smart enough to drop out. She should have dropped out. At least she wouldn't have that moniker.
Before I go to the economy and foreign policy, let me, as long as you brought up this topic, Joe Biden, Chuck Schumer, Adam Schiff, who got a preemptive pardon, all these people that got pardoned, Anthony Fauci, did he know that NIH money through the EcoHealth Alliance was funding the Wuhan Virology Lab? There seems to be text and messages and emails that went back and forth. You talk about the unselect committee, as you call it, the January 6th committee. They had a predetermined outcome. General Milley, all these people, the Biden family members. Joe Biden ran and said he would never do preemptive pardons. It was an issue that came up when you were leaving in your first time.
He thought, he heard that I was going to do it. I didn't want to do it. I was given the option. They said, sir, would you like to pardon everybody, including yourself? I said, I'm not going to pardon anybody. We didn't do anything wrong. And we had people that suffered. They're incredible patriots. We had people that suffered. You had Bannon put in jail. You had Peter Navarro put in jail. You had people that suffered. And far worse than that, they've lost their fortunes. They've lost their whatever, their nest egg, paying it to lawyers. And those people, and people said, and they wouldn't have even taken, most of those people, they wouldn't have even taken a pardon. This guy went around giving everybody pardons. And you know, the funny thing, maybe the sad thing, is he didn't give himself a pardon. And if you look at it, it all had to do with him. I mean, the money went to him.
Should Congress investigate that?
Well, I don't know. It's, you know,
you ordered the DOJ.
I've always been, look, he didn't give himself a pardon. And he didn't give some other people a pardon that needed it. And I heard Schiff went to him and just begged him for a pardon because Schiff is a crook. Schiff is a crooked guy. He's a crooked politician. He made up the story about Russia, Russia, Russia. He totally made it up. You know, he's a storyteller. And then after he made it up, they found out that there was a tape of the conversation made by, you know, I guess, the State Department. I don't know. When you make calls, they make tapes sometimes, not all the time.
He was the one talking to the Russians.
So he, in the meantime, made up the conversation, totally made it up about quid pro quo. There was no quid pro quo, just there was a perfect call. Tim Scott was the first one to come. He read it. He said, this is a perfect call. What are you doing? You're impeaching a man for a perfect call. It was Schiff. Schiff, Hillary, the whole group. You know what? They should. Schiff is just a bad, sick guy. And he went to Biden and he demanded a pardon. because he thought he did something. He knew he
Benny
did
Thompson
something.
won the chairman of that committee.
Benny Thompson destroyed, along with that unselect committee, destroyed all of the work that took place over 2 years. You know why? It showed that I was right.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey.
Thank you for tuning in to the live show. Thank you. Agripe, you say, hey, Genesis Madhouse, what is Schiff's first name and who is he? His first name is Pensolnik. That's all I can tell y'all. All right, of course, CNN has something to say concerning the OG, the 45th, now the 47th. And for whoever's here wondering, where is Genesis
President
streaming
Trump in
from?
a new interview floating an ominous idea, the possibility of investigating former President Joe Biden.
Where is Genesis streaming from? He's not even American. Is he even here in America? He doesn't even sound American. Yeah, he's definitely not American. Okay, so I'm in Kenya, ladies and gentlemen. We're streaming from Kenya, all right? For the people who say, where's Genesis? Where is he from? Okay, is he even American? I'm in Kenya right now. Does that make you feel better?
This guy went around giving everybody pardons. And you know, the funny thing, maybe the sad thing, is he didn't give himself a pardon. And if you look at it, it all had to do with him. I mean, the money went to him.
Should Congress investigate that?
Well, I don't know. It's, you know,
Well, you ordered the DOJ.
I've always been, look, he didn't give himself a pardon.
I want to bring in senior political correspondent for PUC, Tara Palmieri, former senior advisor to the Bernie Sanders 2016 and 2020 presidential campaigns, Chuck Rocha, and former senior advisor to the Trump-Vance 2024 presidential campaign, Brian Lanza. I'll begin with you, Brian, on this. Is he threatening to investigate Biden? Did you interpret it that way?
I didn't. Listen, I didn't interpret it that way at all. I interpreted him saying, having gone through the experience of what I just went through the last 4 years, what a foolish decision it was for Biden not to pardon himself given the current environment. And I think that's true. I mean, I think going forward, our partisanship is so toxic. What it is I think when a new administration leaves, they almost have to look and say, okay, how do we protect the people who've made some of these difficult decisions from these partisanship judiciary, this partisanship that takes place in the Justice Department? I think pardons becomes that answer. I think that's what he's saying. I don't view it as a threat to investigate, because you just look at the first term. He didn't do it the first term. Why would he do it the second term?
Can you imagine if Biden had pardoned himself, given the flack he's already gotten for his son pardon and his family members? How would that have looked?
Of course, it's going to look bad. It would have made it hard for a Democratic consultant like me who makes ads against Republicans for pardoning January 6 folks, because every time I bring that up now, they're going to come and me, Brian's going to go, well, what about all the pardons? This just goes back and forth and we never get there. Right.
Pardon family.
See there? That's what I'm saying. But this is a lot.
Exactly, because we're just going to keep going back and forth. Oh, he pardoned his family. Oh, Trump pardoned J6ers. Oh, some people were not even at the Capitol and they got jail time. It's like you could keep going back and forth, or you could just say, you know what? It's time to move forward. Let's move forward. Let's make America great. Seal the borders like he already did. Okay, it's now a state of emergency. The border. Stop the wars. Bring down mortgage rates, bring down interest rate, okay, bring down grocery prices, gas prices, all of these things he promised, okay, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. These are the things he promised Americans, and he's already getting to work already. So, like, we could keep going back and forth about pardons and all that stuff, or we could just say, you know what, all right, time to move on. Stop all this whataboutism or whatever y'all talk about.
Long stretch. Me and Tara were talking in the green room. Sorry, I'm going to bring it up. But there was a great letter that he had left to this president. Really nice. And we was talking about how nice it was. I guess we're throwing all that nice S out the window now, because now we're talking about coming after each other. Seems like we go back and forth, but in my mind, the way I think about this is it's just more red meat. You've seen the first 48, 72 hours, everything he said he's going to do, he's did it, and he just keeps shoveling more red meat to that base.
Well, you know, Sean Hannity, he wanted to move on from this point. I don't know if he didn't want to go down this road or he had other things to talk about, including things like the economy. Listen to this moment when Sean Hannity was like, something else you want to talk about? Watch.
Somebody advised Joe Biden to give pardons to everybody but him. They wanted to take care of, yeah, but Sean, they wanted to, I don't care.
They're yelling at me.
This is more important because right now the economy is going to do great.
Yeah.
He wanted to move
You're
on.
on PBS.
But this is top of Donald Trump's agenda. He's made it very clear it will be justice. Like, that is number one. It will be Liberation Day. It'll be Justice Day one. And I think, the past 4 years, Donald Trump has said he has spent a lot of his time, his advisors, people closest to him, and their money, their life savings on defending themselves against the justice system. And I don't think he thinks that the administration before him can get away squeaky clean without having to go through the same sort of pain that they went through. I mean, he believes he is a victim, that he was prosecuted, persecuted, and targeted. And so that's why, he often brings up the fact that he never went after Hillary Clinton. That's something he always talks about. He's like, I could have went after her and her emails, but I let that go. So I think that he's trying to say, that the entire landscape has shifted now, and you're allowed to go after your predecessor.
Joining us now to talk about that, CNN political director and Washington bureau chief.
Of course, the media is going to go back and forth and talk about Trump is going to take revenge. But yet this man had his home raided by the FBI. He had 2 assassination attempts on his life. He was going back and forth to the courthouse. He got indicted during his election to become the 47th. Nobody's even talking about that right now. It's like, well, Trump wants to political revenge. But y'all started this. Now I'm not gonna dwell on this. It already happened. I would say just move on, okay? Just move on. Don't go back and forth with these folks. You have important work to do. This is my message to Trump, okay? Because I voted for Trump. Just focus on moving forward, focus on getting the United States economy to where you promised the people who voted for you and every American. You promised them a great economy. You promised to bring it back fast. So get that done. Forget about this, folks. Of course, you can, maybe delegate people to do those work for you, but your sole priority should be getting America back on track. And that's it.
It's good to see you, David. So the president, that soundbite we played about the president talking about not ruling out investigating the former president, Joe Biden. What do you think the impact of that really is?
Well, I'm sure your ears perked up watching it when as mine did. It was like not entirely clear, but yet quite clear.
Right,
that
exactly. That's a perfect way of putting it.
That he was suggesting that Joe Biden made a mistake by not giving himself a pardon. Well, why would that be? Why would that be a mistake? And then he noted, again, without any facts or evidence that supports this, he says, all the money business relationships that were being looked at ended up with Joe Biden. There's no evidence of that. But it is clear that he is still smarting. He, the president, is still smarting over what he went through the last 4 years of investigations.
Of course. What do you expect? I don't blame him, really. However, it's like you have too much work to do. Okay, you have too much work to do. Okay, you can't be prioritizing Joe Biden. Joe Biden's 82, 83 years old. Who cares? It is what it is, okay? And what they did to Trump, raiding his home, having 2 assassination attempt. I'm not saying, Democrat did that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, everything that has happened to Trump, the indictment and everything else, being a convicted felon to walk into the White House as a president, the first convicted felon to walk into the White House as a president, they have cemented his legacy. Now his name would never be forgotten. You want this man gone so bad, you indicted him, you raided his home, you tried to tarnish his image. Now you've just sealed his name on the sands of time. His name would never, ever be forgotten. Trump would probably end up his legacy would end up like Lincoln. I'm telling y'all, because matter of fact, it may be greater because this guy, what he has done, his story is just mind blowing. The world would write books about Trump forever. History would be kind to this man. You have done everything you want to do against this guy, but yet he keeps coming back. And guess what? He is the most famous human being in the world as of today, the most powerful man in the world as of today. With everything they've done to sweep his name under the rug, they just keep making him larger and bigger. He's way too huge. He cannot be stopped. And his life story, his journey is an inspiration. If you're not inspired by Trump's story, I don't know what you're going to be inspired by.
Indictments, conviction, and this is part of his driving force. This part of his greatest political comeback. I mean, he said it on the campaign trail, I am your retribution. And he sees this as an opportunity now to sort of check through a list of payback. And he's emboldened to do so. He's a term-limited president, assuming the Constitution doesn't change. He's never shown a ton of import or respect for building the Republican Party. It's been about Trump's brand. So I'm not sure he's all that concerned about downstream political ramifications for his decision making. And I just think, I'm not suggesting he will absolutely launch an investigation to Joe Biden, Kate, but clearly he wanted to throw that sort of chum in the water and keep it out there as a possibility.
And so was his first big sit-down interview in the Oval Office. And with that, it's a real statement of priorities, at least where he is right now. I mean, what did you take from that whole interview, that whole sit down, and what it says about his focus as he takes office?
We've seen, I think, a bit of a bifurcated few days thus far. There has been a really aggressive focus, if you go through all the executive orders and a lot of the public comments on immigration, which he believes, and he has said, is his very life force of a political issue since he came down the escalator nearly 10 years ago and launched his political career. And he sees that as an issue that voters absolutely affirmed his point of view on this election. So I think on the policy front, you see immigration front and center, far more so than the economy thus far. But what is also clear is that he is still the Donald Trump we all know him to be, which is consumed by personal grievance. And he thinks his return to the Oval Office means that this is payback time, payback favors for those.
Man, please, yo, stop that. Stop that. He's already done more than Joe Biden has done in the past 4 years. He's already done more. So stop saying he thinks it is time to retribute. Nah, this ain't what it is. You cannot. This is why Trump won the election. This right here, this types of conversation, this types of narrative. This is why Trump won by a landslide. When was the last time a Republican won the popular vote? When was the last time a Republican won all swing states? And they're still doing the same thing, playing the same game. You will lose in 2028 if you continue talking like this. Trump should not even come out of their mouth. Like, the reason why the Democrat leaders are not as popular as they used to be, their ideologies. The reason why their ideologies are not as popular as they used to be is because of these types of conversation. Making Trump seem like he is the problem. He's not. Okay? For the past 16 years, I want y'all to listen to this. For the past 16 years, Democrats have controlled the executive power for 12 years. Obama had it for 8 years, Trump had it for 4 years, Biden had it for 4 years. That's what? That's 16 years. So out of the past 16 years, Democrats have controlled the executive power for 12 years. And for some reason, Trump is the problem. It's over. And if they keep going this route, I just hope they never learn their lesson. I hope they keep going this route. 2028, you're going to see a Tulsi Gabbard or a J.D. Vance, and there's nothing you're going to be able to do about it. And in 2032, you're probably going to see a Don Jr. or maybe a Tulsi Gabbard or RFK. There's nothing you could do about it if you keep going this route.
That stuck with him, and perhaps payback in terms of retribution against those that were opposed to him.
When it comes to the economy, the thing that sticks with me is you saw it almost right after the election. When he's campaigning, David, he could bring prices down and he's going to bring them down fast. It's going to happen on day one. Right after the election, the message completely changed to what is the reality, which is it is tough for any action by any president to impact the economy and to impact prices. So that it's almost like that is part of the undercurrent of the message in terms of priority or not, being in the foreground or in the background for him. Also, then I want to ask you about FEMA. He's traveling to California tomorrow to see fire damage there. You're also going to be in North Carolina seeing what still is devastating storm damage there. In this interview, he talked about, I think the way he put it was, wanting states to take care of their own problems instead of looking to the federal government and FEMA. What do you make of that?
Yeah, he was arguing, I think, that FEMA's far too bureaucratic, too much red tape to go through, and he wants to clear that out of the way. The question is, who pays the bill? States don't have unlimited resources the way the federal government does. This is part of why Joe Biden told Gavin Newsom before he left office that the federal government would take up the full bill for getting Los Angeles back on its feet. It sounded to me in the interview last night when he said, you know, we really need to get FEMA out of the way and let the states drive this. To me, it sort of begs the question, okay, but who's paying that bill and how are the states going to be able to afford everything they need to do, both in North Carolina and in California, to get their residents whole again and back on their feet? That I don't think we heard a full explanation on.
Yeah, it's money, it's the bill, and also it's the manpower and the resources of getting people on the ground to assist people in the immediate and the long term in their recovery. I mean, you know, you have FEMA still working in these storm ravaged states in Florida.
Man, please. Man, please. Please. People in North Carolina, Georgia, South Carolina, they got $750. Some of them lost their homes, but they got $750. And they're saying, you know what? That's just the first resource that they're going to get, $750. And afterwards, they're going to get something better. Some are still waiting for something better to come from the government. Same thing with California. They were promised $770 for that wildfire. $770, yo. And most of them don't even have home insurance anymore because insurance companies dropped them like flies. Can't even explain it to y'all, man. The government that we had for the past 4 years was a total disaster. Well, comeback. The comeback is here, and the golden age has begun. Trump is going to North Carolina on Friday, and is also going to California as well.
The Republican Party, Donald Trump, his vice president, called her a DEI hire.
Yes.
Said that she
I
was
didn't
not.
call her a DEI hire.
I'm not talking about you. I said the people running for office against her called her a DEI hire. To your point, everything is being blamed on DEI. California fires, DEI. Trump's shooting, the rally at the Trump shooting, DEI, even though the head of his detail is a white man. Right-wing commentators talking about plane safety, saying
This right here is why. I'll say it again. This right here is why the Democrat Party lost, and they will lose in 2028 if they keep going this route. I'm sorry, man.
planes are going to crash because of DEI.
But to that point, you had a video of a firefighter in Los Angeles, right, talking about the diversity in recruitment and saying that a person who gets themselves trapped in a fire is their own fault.
Okay.
You have to see how ridiculous the American public views that.
That happened. But Joe, did they cause the wildfire?
No one caused the wildfire.
Did
There's a question of whether the person is
Nobody caused the wildfire. California is prone to wildfire because it is a dry state. However, why didn't you have water in your fire? What is that called? My brain is doing because I'm just angry right now. Okay, I don't want to be emotional. Okay, because this right here is your fire hydrant. Why didn't you have water in your fire hydrant? Okay. Why didn't you have water in your fire hydrant? Nobody's talking about, you caused the wildfire in California. However, there are measures that could be put in place. Have enough water in your dams. Why didn't you have water in your fire hydrant? That's the number one question. They asked Gavin Newsom. Guess what he said? He said that is the locals' responsibility. The locals' responsibility. You are the head of your state.
Did that individual or even that ideology prevent the Los Angeles Fire Department from putting out a wildfire, 5 wildfires?
But it's saying that particular firefighter is saying that she, I don't want to misgender her and get more trouble, but she is unable to lift someone out of a fire, and it's the person's fault.
Does that have anything to do with the wildfires and the ability to?
Are you? Someone, oh my goodness, God, Lord Jesus. Can you listen to what this lady just said? Listen, just listen, y'all.
She is unable to lift someone out of a fire, and it's the person's fault.
What do you mean? What does that have to do with a wildfire?
To her and get more trouble, but she is unable to lift someone out of a fire, and it's the person.
There is a fire. You are unable to lift person from a burning home. And this lady right here just said, what does that have to do with a wildfire? Everything. It has everything to do with a wildfire. There is a wildfire. People are in the home. You need to be able to pick people up and get them out of danger zone. She's saying, what does that have to do with wildfire? This is the problem right here.
Have anything to do with the wildfires and the ability to stop
I think a person's ability to carry someone out of a fire is a pretty
I'm talking
good
about
prerequisite
the
to be a
wildfires and the ability to stop them. What does that have to do with it?
I don't think DEI was responsible for setting a fire. That's not what they were saying.
Clearly was not.
But
and
that's
it
what
clearly
people
was
said.
not responsible for
But also
being able to put out the fire as well.
Also, I hear you, and I'm glad you don't think discrimination should happen. But our sitting president actually does, because he discriminated against Black people. He did not want them to be able to rent from him, and he has yet to repent for it and say it is wrong.
In the 70s, woe is me, I am a victim. This is what they cry every single time. Anytime you hear someone who looks like me say, oh, well, he's yet to repent from what he did, you are crying victimization. You would leave your victimized mindset for the rest of your life. Okay? I refuse to be a victim, and I'm taking every victim mind state human being away from my life. Okay? You cannot have a victimized mindset and expect to have direct contact with me. It is impossible. I will make sure I cut you off. This is why most people are going to cry, woe is me, every single time. Okay? Woe is me every single time. This is why immigrants that came into the United States legally are doing better than most born American or American born people. Because for some reason, some Americans, especially people who look like me, just think that they are entitled to some form of, I don't know, money, or I just don't get it. This is why you have Indians coming into the United States becoming engineers, doctors, Africans coming into the United States becoming doctors, engineers, business owners, and putting their head down and realizing that, you know what, I am going to work my way to the top. I do not deserve anything. I am going to focus on my dreams and work as hard as I can. They're not crying victimized mindset. Oh, woe is unto me. Somebody did this to me 400 years ago. You already had the 44th president, who happens to be the man that looked like me. Okay. He was there for 8 years, born in Chicago. What did he do for Chicago? Somebody tell me in the chat. Let me know in the chat what he did for Chicago. The 44th president you already had a president. Okay. This man called prophet, most people would say, called Martin Luther King, said, I have a dream. Do you think if Martin Luther King was alive when Obama became the president of the United States, do you think he wouldn't say, my dream has finally come true? Do you think he wouldn't say, my dream has finally come through? He would. But yet, most people are still living like they're in the 70s, in the 60s, in the 40s. This is your life. Take full advantage of your life. You're here now. You don't know how long you have in this world. Stop crying, I am a victim. You would be a victim until the day God says, come home. If you don't wake your ass up, okay? I don't want to say, if you don't wake your ass up, okay? You're going to be a victim for the rest of your life. Life is hard. Deal with it, okay? Everybody has something going on in their family. I do, okay? You do, everybody does. But wake up, realize that you can change the trajectory of your life. And another thing, like when you see people come into the United States, I came into the United States like 8 years ago, okay? And I became a United States citizen like 3 years ago. It took me 5 years to become a United States citizen. I'm not crying woe unto me. Okay. But you see people that came into the United States, they'll be here for 20 years, 25 years, 30 years. And guess what? They would not work their way through USCIS, through Homeland Security to become a United States citizen. And they're going to blame Trump because they're not citizens. They did not take they didn't take it serious to have document, to be documented. And you're going to say, Trump, you've been here for 25 years, for 30 years. What were you doing for 30 years? What were you doing for 25 years? You didn't know that you could actually go on USCIS website. You didn't know that you could actually get a immigration lawyer to change status. That didn't accord to you. But Trump is the bad person. Come on, man. We got to take accountability. We got to take responsibility for our actions. Okay. This is why I always say, fathers, take care of your kids. This is what I always say every single time. Okay. I preach what I do. Let me out here say, woe unto me. Yeah, woe unto you, though.
It is something that is woven into our country, and I understand that folks feel like DEI has gone too far, but disparities exist for a reason, and DEI was a tactic to ensure that people had equal opportunity. Now, I think the numbers will speak for themselves. I think, and I also, again, this goes back to the immigration thing. This whole like snitch on people that Donald Trump, they better be careful because Donald Trump sits next to people that might get snitched on themselves.
Snitches
So
get stitches. Be careful.
I didn't want to say it. I was waiting for you. You're from New York.
Let's talk about equal opportunity, right? Because this is what this is all about. It's about opening up the doors and removing the barriers that have existed for decades. Right? There is a reason why Black people in this country only have 15% of the wealth as white people. So what are you telling us? Are you telling us that we are unqualified, unsmart, that we're
This case is probably unsolvable. This victimization mindset is probably unsolvable because it's been woven into so many brown skinned humans in the United States. It's like you cannot, the way I'm talking right now, if a brown skinned hardcore victimized person was in the chat, they would call me a coon. They would say Genesis is a coon. He's Uncle Ruckus. Is the guy, is the Stephen guy in Django. That's what they will call me. Like straight up. Oh, he's a coon. Oh, he's a, because I'm saying don't be a victim. Because I'm saying go out there and work your butt off. Because I'm saying don't be person that blames somebody else for your own success. That's why I'm a coon. Oh, because I voted for Trump. It's like, how is that even? I mean, Jesus.
not actually operating based on merit? Why is it that we have a culture?
There was affirmative action for white men for literally hundreds of years in this country. For hundreds of years, there was affirmative action for white men. And to answer your question, because my friend Abel would.
But this is why it keeps on going though, because the media, I mean, this is what they put on TV every day for young kids to watch. So you're literally growing into victimization mindset. Once you hear stuff like this, then you're originally, maybe you had a dream to become a pilot, to become, whatever, astronaut, engineer, or whatever. And then all of a sudden, you keep watching stuff like this and it tells you, the white man and the black man and this and that and this and that. And all of a sudden, you start growing to be a victim. It's like you thought you could, because a baby, when you have a baby, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old kid doesn't think about none of this stuff. Okay, they're just living their life thinking they could fly to the moon or become whatever. And then all of a sudden, you start indoctrinating them with conversations like this about how in America, they don't have equal opportunity. In America, they don't do this. Oh, in America, if you're black, you're not gonna, if you're in America, if you are, or you are the minority, you can never go above this level. Don't try to, or they're gonna get you. They're gonna get you if you go past this level now. This is why most people who look like me never amount to I don't want to say nothing, because there's a lot of very successful people, you know, in the United States that look like me. Um, most people don't know the wealthiest brown skinned man in America is worth over $11 billion. So his name is David Stewart. David Stewart is the wealthiest, brown skinned person in the United States. He is an IT entrepreneur. His name is David Stewart. One more time. Um, is one of the wealthiest human beings in the world. He is worth $11.4 billion. This man is the man that looks exactly like me. Okay. David Stewart. Y'all go Google this guy. David Stewart. He is the wealthiest brown skinned man in America. He is worth 11.4 billion. He is an entrepreneur. Okay. There are so many examples like that. Okay. Because people only listen to music and they know Jay-Z and the rest of them. There are people who are worth tens of billions in America. Okay. So y'all go do your research. They're not crying victimization mindset. They're actually putting their hands to work, their brains to work, and taking advantage of the system. This is America has a system. You have to take advantage of the system. Insurance, taxes, credit. You have to take advantage of it. If you do not, you're gonna keep crying victimization mindset.
It is not because they're not working hard enough. It's because for centuries, they were locked out of education. For centuries, they were locked out of economic mobility. They couldn't even build wealth. They were set free in this country after being enslaved for hundreds of years with nothing. Nothing. And
here we go. Yeah. Here we go, y'all. This is what I'm talking about. This is where it starts. The programming starts from here. This is where the programming starts from. It is a program. You get with the program. You were just a kid dreaming you could be anything. Then this program comes. Here goes the program.
Hundreds of years, there was affirmative action for literally hundreds of years in this country. For hundreds.
Qualified, unsmart, that we're not actually operating based on merit? Why is it that we have a culture?
There was affirmative action for white men for literally hundreds of years in this country. For hundreds of years, there was affirmative action for white men. And to answer your question, because my friend Abel would not, it is not because they're not working hard enough. It's because for centuries, they were locked out of education. For centuries, they were locked out of economic mobility. They couldn't even build wealth. They were set free in this country after being enslaved for hundreds of years with nothing. Nothing. And then they were subject to another 100 years of Jim Crow. So look,
and
there are a lot of reasons for it, but it's not because they're not working hard enough.
It perpetuates generation to generation. I would just encourage people who disagree with DEI.
This is coming from a woman who is on CNN. CNN is known to be probably the greatest news media company for the past 50 years. I mean, you could call it how many news channel can you call in the world without calling CNN top 3? Top 3 in the world today. You could never call Fox, CNN, maybe ABC, NBC. You would call CNN in top 3. Top 3. This woman crying about how we were enslaved for what? She's working in one of the biggest news company on earth. What do you think her ancestors are doing right now? They're jumping in awe. They're jumping and screaming. We never thought this was possible in the United States. They're happy. and you want to scream, man, we got to do better and realize that the barriers that you think is holding you back is just an illusion. It's an illusion. Wake up.
To take time to sit down and have a conversation with a person of color who feels like DEI has helped them or has been discriminated against. Because again, when you put a face behind an actual issue, it makes you understand the issue better.
All right.
Same story every single time. Same goddamn story every single time.
Well, President Trump's illegal immigration crackdown is off to a fast start. Fox News has learned that in a 33-hour period between Tuesday morning and Wednesday night, ICE agents arrested over 460 migrants, many with long criminal.
It's back, y'all. Yo, the OG is back, y'all. He is back, y'all. It's over. It's over, y'all.
Histories. But these operations aren't just limited to Boston. They're taking place all over the country. Bill Malugin is getting an exclusive look at this massive, important operation in the sanctuary city of Boston. Live now to Bill.
Well, Emily, we've heard officials here in Boston and in Massachusetts say repeatedly they are not going to cooperate with ICE or mass deportation efforts by the Trump administration. And ICE says, well, that's perfectly fine. You don't have to cooperate with us. We're still going to go into your city and we're going to do the job. And we were with ICE Boston yesterday for about 10 hours as we got to watch them firsthand carry out immigration enforcement. Take a look.
Good morning, everyone.
It's a frigid 5 degrees in the pre-dawn hours just outside of Boston, where this team of elite ICE officers is briefing on their targets for the day.
We're going to be targeting some extremely violent offenders today.
Within moments, the officers are on the move, with eyes on their first target.
Looks like we got movement, target vehicle coming out.
They quickly take him into custody. He's an MS-13 gang member wanted in El Salvador for aggravated murder. And he has an Interpol red notice out for his arrest.
We are targeting very violent threats to our community.
I'm not going back to Haiti.
One of those threats is this illegal alien from Haiti. ICE says he's a gang member with 17 criminal convictions in recent years.
Trump, you feel me? Yo, Biden forever, bro. Thank Obama for everything that he did for me, bro.
ICE Boston quickly takes down its next targets, including this illegal alien from Brazil who has an Interpol red notice for armed robbery. This Salvadoran illegal alien charged locally with rape and released by a sanctuary jurisdiction.
Señor, ¿cómo se llama?
And this Dominican illegal alien charged with assault with a deadly weapon and heroin trafficking. Officers also arrested this Guatemalan MS-13 gang member facing gun charges. ICE says he was released from local custody just the day before. Their detainer request was ignored because of sanctuary policies. And in a sign of shifting priorities with the new Trump administration, this man, who was in the same apartment as the target, was also arrested after ICE determined he's also in the U.S. illegally. This is what ICE calls collateral.
So you guys got your main target just now, but you got somebody else. What just happened?
So our main target was released by a sanctuary jurisdiction, not honoring a detainer. That person was released back into the community, and when we went to go find him, he's with somebody else who was previously removed from the United States. So he's going to go today too.
And that is exactly what Border Czar Tom Homan has warned would happen.
When we find the bad guy, he's probably with others that are in the United States illegally. They may not be a criminal priority, but we're not walking away from them.
ICE Boston says they will continue to go into sanctuary jurisdictions and do their job.
Today was a good day. Today we took several significant public safety threats out of our communities. Unfortunately, a lot were released by sanctuary policies, but we're here to tell the Commonwealth and the rest of the country that we're going to find them whether they're released or not.
And guys, a quick note on some of the blurring we did in that story. We decided to hide the faces of the ICE officers, obviously, because a lot of them work undercover. We also blurred some of the faces of the suspects if their cases are still pending, if they've been arrested but haven't been convicted yet. We also learned after we were done filming that ICE picked up another target on the other side of the city. This was a previously deported Honduran illegal alien who was arrested locally and is facing charges for raping a woman while holding a gun in her mouth, guys. Those are the kind of targets ICE is picking up out here. We'll send it back to you.
Bill Malugin, thank you. Kaylee, an absolutely frightening collection of individuals. Took 33 hours to get 461 out of the way. Amazing what a little bit of leadership, a little bit of gumption, and the mandate from the American people can do.
And Emily, we were sitting there watching this, and you said 18 convictions for that Haitian individual. I mean, we were stunned to hear him say, bleep Trump, thank you, Biden, thank you, Obama, Biden forever, bro. Pay attention to what he is saying. That Biden and Obama enabled someone with 18 criminal convictions to sit in our country without any sort of accountability. There's a lot of people they need to add to that list. Mr. Haitian migrant, criminal who's no longer going to be here. Add Michelle Wu, the mayor of Boston. Add Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago. Add Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. Democrats have enabled this. And what a smart move from this administration to put these images out there within 48 hours. Because I can tell you this, the media is trying to focus on crying immigrants whose CBP apps were canceled, their appointments were canceled. They're trying to find the collateral migrants who are swept up. Tom Homan said that would happen because Democrats are not being compliant. They're trying to find those stories. And the Trump administration says, here are the criminals that are going to make the next Laken Riley happen in this country. This is what we're doing, protecting women, girls, American citizens.
And as Kaylee talks about the Laken Riley Act, Tom Homan warns these individuals, you will be arrested for these collateral individuals. You will be arrested for resisting this.
Yeah, you know, we do need to take a good look at the first law they broke, though, because that is really the problem. They came into this country illegally, and the last administration wanted to legalize their illegal behavior and just turn them into our neighbors. And that's how these people have gotten to the point where, well, can we vote too? Eric Adams, don't forget what he said when he was a candidate before he decided he might need Trump to clean up this mess that he and the governor of New York have put on the citizens here in the state with illegal immigration. He said, oh, I'll see if you can vote, even if you're not here illegally. So can we all just agree that when you break our law of sovereignty at the border, it counts, it matters, and they are going after the most violent among them and the criminals. And if they sweep up some, as you said, Kaylee, I believe, look, they're not playing ball with ICE, but they're also sweeping up people because those people are with the illegal guys who are committing the violent crimes because they're here illegally too. I can't say that enough. And does that mean that everybody gets pushed out? What it ought to mean is everybody at least gets vetted.
Trace, I want to talk to you about something specific having to do with California. So we know that ICE issued over 420 detainers, which means that they demand to be notified when a national is released from custody. These ones that they're requesting are in custody for things like homicide, battery, rape, kidnapping, and the like. But they're in the city of San Jose, for example, when Miss Bambi Larson was murdered by an illegal immigrant who had 6 detainer requests from ICE. And that is why, in part, Michael Gates from Huntington Beach in your neck of the woods in Southern California is suing California, saying we are not a sanctuary city. You are hurting American citizens. So this is something that we're going to see reflected in these ongoing tensions now. But I see Tom Homan and the rest of the United States succeeding over this.
And it's important to note that when you talk about Huntington Beach, it's in Orange County, and Orange County is a redder part of California. Not as red as it used to be, but remember, in the election, 11 counties in California went red. So it was a big deal, a big shift. California is not going to cooperate. Bill Malugin, nobody's done better work on this stuff than Bill Malugin when he was talking about it in his script, saying Boston is not going to cooperate. Yes, but Boston is also not resisting a lot of this stuff. They're not putting up any kind of resistance, which is a very good point. because even Eric Adams is saying, you know what, we're gonna play ball. We're gonna play ball, and even Denver, we're gonna play ball a little bit. California's not there yet. California is pushing back, saying we are going to resist, we are going to protect. Chicago is saying we are going to protect our people. But you can see as they start seeing these images of MS-13 members and gang members being gathered up and sent to their home countries, you're going to see more public opinion come out and say, this is what we need. It's not Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez saying they're deporting legal people. It's not what's happening. They are reporting the worst of the worst like they said they would do.
That's why the protection of the people means complying with ICE and actually helping this rather than resisting.
Well, and part of Bill Melugent's reporting, he commented on a woman, a neighbor, who, as they were bringing someone out, she yelled out of her window, "Thank you." This is what people voted for. We talk about Laken Riley and protecting the next Laken Riley. This was such a concern of so many Americans, women, moms, families, that their communities had just been turned into crime scenes because of these open border policies. And so I think that was, to me, just really crystallized a promise made and a promise being kept. And I hope we see more of it. And I'm with you. I love that we're getting these images because that totally debunks the left's whole narrative on this.
Yeah. And those
It has never been so awesome and nice to see that you voted for a commander-in-chief and you voted for this. He said he was going to deport people. He said that during the campaign trail. He said that, and this is what people voted for, and they're getting exactly what they voted for. Promises made, promises kept. Just 3 days into his presidency. Undeniably the greatest we've ever had.
They're wasting no time. And ICE is making nearly 500 arrests in the span of just 33 hours. The New York Post cover, "The Iceman cometh." President Trump also signing more executive orders, including one designed to block illegal crossings. And he told Sean Hannity that Joe Biden's failed policies forced him to take swift action.
Why would somebody say that open borders are good, where jails and mental institutions from other countries and gang members right off the streets of the toughest cities in the world are being brought to the United States of America and emptied out into our country? Why would anybody that even likes, you don't have to love our country, you have to like it. Why would anybody that likes our country, the Democrats, allow that to happen? And even now, I watch them on television, they're trying to justify it. You can't justify it.
So those ICE raids taking place in many parts of the country, including the sanctuary city of Boston. That's where Bill Melugent went on an exclusive right along with ICE, and Bill joins us now to tell us what he found and what he saw. Bill, good morning.
Bill, good morning to you as well. In the early days of this new Trump administration, ICE officials tell me they're taking what they call a worst first approach, meaning they're going to target the worst of the worst criminal alien offenders first. Well, we were given exclusive access to join the elite ICE team right here in Boston as they go into sanctuary jurisdictions and enforce immigration law.
Good morning, everyone.
It's a frigid 5 degrees in the pre-dawn hours just outside of Boston, where this team of elite ICE officers is briefing on their targets for the day.
We're going to be targeting some extremely violent offenders today.
Within moments, the officers are on the move, with eyes on their first target.
Looks like we got movement, target vehicle coming out.
They quickly take him into custody. He's an MS-13 gang member wanted in El Salvador for aggravated murder. And he has an Interpol red notice out for his arrest.
We are targeting very violent threats to our community.
I'm not going back to Haiti.
One of those threats is this illegal alien from Haiti. ICE says he's a gang member with 17 criminal convictions in recent years.
Trump, you feel me? Yo, Biden forever, bro. Thank Obama for everything that he did for me, bro.
ICE Boston quickly takes down its next targets, including this illegal alien from Brazil who has an Interpol red notice for armed robbery. This Salvadoran illegal alien charged locally with rape and released by a sanctuary jurisdiction.
Señor, ¿cómo se llama?
And this Dominican illegal alien charged with assault with a deadly weapon and heroin trafficking. Officers also arrested this Guatemalan MS-13 gang member facing gun charges. ICE says he was released from local custody just the day before. Their detainer request was ignored because of sanctuary policies. And in a sign of shifting priorities with the new Trump administration, this man, who was in the same apartment as the target, was also arrested after ICE determined he's also in the U.S. illegally. This is what ICE calls collateral.
So you guys got your main target just now, but you got somebody else. What just happened?
So our main target was released by a sanctuary jurisdiction, not honoring a detainer. That person was released back into the community, and when we went to go find him, he's with somebody else who was previously removed from the United States. So he's going to go today too.
And that is exactly what Border Czar Tom Homan has warned would happen.
When we find the bad guy, he's probably with others that are in the United States illegally. They may not be a criminal priority, but we're not walking away from them.
ICE Boston says they will continue to go into sanctuary jurisdictions and do their job.
Today was a good day. Today we took several significant public safety threats out of our communities. Unfortunately, a lot were released by sanctuary policies, but we're here to tell the Commonwealth and the rest of the country that we're going to find them whether they're released or not.
And guys, shortly after we finished filming, ICE Boston told us they arrested 2 more targets in other parts of town away from our cameras. One of those targets is a previously deported Honduran illegal alien who was arrested for raping a woman while putting a gun in her mouth. The other target they got is a Haitian man who first flew into the United States in 2023 as part of President Biden's controversial migrant flights mass parole program. Well, they just picked him up yesterday because he's been arrested locally for sexual assault. We'll send it back to you.
Bill Malugin, it was fascinating to watch all of that. I think I was just saying to Bill, this is terrible for Joe Biden and the legacy that he tried to leave behind. A question from me, how soon will they actually be leaving the country? Does that take a long time?
It depends what country they're from. If they're from cooperable countries like El Salvador, Guatemala, countries like that, it can be quick. It can be within days or weeks. If it's countries that are harder to deport, countries that don't cooperate with the U.S. as much, it can go into a process of months. But the Trump administration is changing policies with something called expedited removal. The bottom line is people at home don't need to understand all the policies. The Trump administration is just going to work as fast as they can to get all the people you just saw on camera there out of the country as fast as possible. They're also going to use their State Department, now led by Marco Rubio, to put pressure on countries that don't cooperate with the U.S. as much when it comes to those deportations.
Bill, just two points of clarification here. It seems a lot of these crimes are associated with sex crimes. I'm just looking at the list a bit earlier today. I don't know if that generally is the case or not. And second, if Boston's a sanctuary city, how are they allowed to do this? Because we told there would be resistance.
Boston doesn't have to cooperate with ICE, but there's nothing they can do to stop ICE from coming into their city and enforcing the law. And that's exactly what happened yesterday. And that's the point ICE makes to us is, look, they don't have to cooperate with our detainer requests. They don't have to tell our officers when they're releasing somebody from jail. But we're going to do our job. We have our intel guys out in the field. We have people with eyes all over the place, and we're going to snatch those guys. So they can make ICE's job more difficult, longer, and more dangerous, but it's not going to stop ICE from doing the job, guys. The bottom line is, ICE says it's safer for everybody involved if locals would just hand these guys over in jail once they're arrested, but they don't. They let them out onto the streets. They don't tell ICE about it, so ICE has to spend a lot of resources gathering intel, finding these guys, and then going out into the community to do arrests, which could be dangerous. You saw that combative Haitian man, and then you saw, in the case of that one MS-13 member, his friend got snagged. They weren't even looking for him. They were looking for the MS-13 guy. They picked him up because a sanctuary jurisdiction released the MS-13 guy. ICE found him and then found the guy who was in the apartment with. They found out he was an illegal alien as well. So now he's going to be deported too.
Wow.
Amazing. Bill Malugin, thank you so much. More to come on that.
Thank you, Bill.
This is what Tom Homan has been talking about. Tom Homan has been saying, you know what? Just let us do our job, and we would not have to deport everybody that, they may not be harmful to the society. They're here illegally. So it's like, if you let us come get the dangerous one, we're never going to get everybody that's not supposed to maybe leave because they're not harmful to the society. But if you're saying you're not going to give us the I guess the jurisdiction or the authority to go in and do our job. We will still do our job. We're going to come in because this is a federal order by the President of the United States. So you're just going to put everybody else in the zone to get deported.
Hundreds of illegal immigrants accused of serious crimes.
Griff Jenkins is in Washington with more. Hey, Griff.
Hey, good morning, guys. And Ainsley, you mentioned promises made, promises kept. Well, guess what? Consequences are being delivered. The crackdown has begun. President Trump could deploy actually as many as 10,000 active duty troops to the southern border. And while they may not engage in law enforcement, they will be engaging in protecting our border, including the use of military transport planes for deportation flights. Now, a Marine official telling Fox News this, quote, "Our response will be immediate. We are going in ready to respond. If the cartels shoot at us, we will not stand by. We will be taking whatever equipment we would send if a Marine Expeditionary Unit or MEU were deploying overseas." Now, the 1,500 soldiers and Marines deploying right now represent a 60% increase from the already 2,500 that are there, and it comes as ICE's enforcement and removal officers have been hitting the streets across the country, launching early morning raids targeting some 700,000 criminal illegal aliens that have been roaming free under the Biden-Harris administration, protected in sanctuary cities like Boston. In fact, ICE has racked up more than 460 arrests in the first 33 hours since Trump took office. He sat down in the Oval Office last night with Hannity for his first interview and had this to say.
We talk Venezuela, that's a big abuser, but these are countries from
Iran,
the
Syria?
Congo, countries that you don't even think of, much more than South America.
Now, here's the important note. Countries like Venezuela, where Trinidad Aragua comes from, or Iran, that harbors terrorists, they're recalcitrant countries, guys, meaning they don't currently take their citizens back. But President Trump told me last month, point blank, in Mar-a-Lago, he said they'll take them back or face economic consequences. Guys?
So, Griff, it sounds like up to 10,000 troops are going to be eventually heading down within the next period of days or weeks to our southern border. The Washington Post has got some juicy details, though. They say that Border Patrol agents are going to block migrants on the grounds that they have passed through countries where communicable diseases are present. They're going to say, you can't come in because you might have something. And they're also, even though they're going to try to claim asylum, now under this new executive order that they're apparently working on, only 2 people in the federal government will be able to allow them to be released into the country to asylum seekers. One is Mike Banks, the new chief of Border Patrol, and his deputy. So only 2 people. That means the flow is going to just stop immediately.
It sure will. And what you're talking about are, we have seen for the past 4 years, Steve, the notice to appear, where they just release them, particularly when they don't have any place to put them because so many thousands were coming. But ultimately, it is the asylum, the remove in Mexico or migrant protection protocols that has been reinstated, meaning that you have to go back to the country where you just came from, meaning in this case, Mexico, to wait for your asylum to play out. But under the Immigration and Nationality Act from 1965, there's a clause, 212F. You're going to hear a lot about that in the coming days because that gives broad authority to simply block and deny anyone from coming across to try and claim asylum on U.S. soil. And that is really the crux of what the Washington Post and what others are talking about. And if you do indeed bolster and supplement your force with these active duty U.S. military troops, you can stop the gaps in places like California, Arizona, and elsewhere where you don't have the Texas DPS with miles of razor wire and extra forces. You're going to reinforce blocking entry. And so that is going to be something that we're going to see play out in the very near future.
Griff, what about the wall?
What's that?
What about the wall? Has he said anything about starting to build again?
Well, you're already seeing the wall, the states like Texas saying we're ready to start moving right now. And there was already an effort underway to get back some of those wall materials that were being auctioned off. I think we'll probably see the White House or President Trump in the very near future talk about exactly what pieces of wall and where they can put them. It's a very complex problem because it's not like you just build a wall and a line, but you can rest assured that Border Patrol Chief Mike Banks has got his people already looking at the most strategic areas to get wall up as fast as possible.
And Griff, real quick, your guys that you talk to, what if they say is the big difference this week than previous weeks? Have they already seen a dramatic drop?
It's a great question, and they say they have been taken off the leash and they are motivated like never before to try and go out. And as one Border Patrol official told me yesterday, consequences are being delivered, and that's what they signed up to do, and they're finally doing it.
They are off the leash. A new leash on life.
Traffic is slower.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Griff.
Thank you.
All right. So here's President Trump on what was going on prior to him getting into office.
I always say to people, you always like to understand, like in a business, you want to understand the other side. Why do they want something, et cetera, and you figure it out. And there's usually an answer, almost always. I don't understand. Why does somebody want open borders? Why would anybody that likes our country, the Democrats, allow that to happen? And even now, I watch them on television. They're trying to justify it. You can't justify it. The only reason it can be is two reasons. You're stupid, and I don't think they're stupid. I think anybody that cheats that much and that well is not stupid. You're either stupid or you hate the country. Those are the only two reasons.
Sanctuary states, by definition, or sanctuary cities, they're aiding and abetting in the law breaking. Okay, they're going to get federal funds.
Yeah. We're trying to get rid of them. We're trying to end them, and a lot of the people in those communities don't want them. California is a big example.
Would you cut off their money?
I might have to do that. Sometimes that's the only thing you can do.
So that's where the big fight is going to be. I have no doubt the military is already on their way. They're going to get the resources to secure the border. So there's going to be a stop when it comes to people coming across. You're going to have to apply for asylum in the first country that you touch, or you can wait in Mexico because of Remain in Mexico. The app has been shut off. So we're going to have a flow stop. But you got people that are still here, 10 million under the last administration, and you got some states and some cities that are going to harbor these people, not going to want to cooperate. And so I predict Donald Trump is going to go after them, and you got a DOJ now that's on his side that wants to follow the law, but it's going to be litigated throughout the courts.
Well, and I talked to somebody at the DOJ last night, and what they've done is they've taken some people who were in a different department, and now they've assigned them essentially to take a look at people in these sanctuary cities, officials, and if they are hampering what the president is trying to do, figure a way to prosecute those local officials. This is completely new. Ashley Moody was the Attorney General of the great state of Florida last week. This week, she's a U.S. Senator. Here she is talking about how there is some resistance to some of these new policies.
Kudos to the Trump administration for coming out like lightning with these executive orders. It's going to go very far in trying to round up so many of these serious criminals that were released at the direction of the Biden administration. Not only did it reinstate a program that allows locals and state officials to cooperate with the federal government, it sets up Homeland Security task forces, it encourages it, but it also says, hey, DOJ lawyers and agents, if people get in your way when these task forces identify and go after these folks and try and round them up, we're not standing for it. That's a criminal violation. Obstruction of a federal function or a federal investigation, it's serious. It's a felony. You can bring criminal charges in some instances, but they've also set up litigators to go after folks, these governments and people civilly if they stand in the way, to bring actions to allow the feds to do their jobs.
It just reminded me of the wrestling match between them. Remember, Donald Trump would say sanctuary city status is revoked, then they would sue back, would end up in the courts, and then the money would have to be restored if the judge says it should be restored. That's some of the battle. My only hope is that some of these city council members are not hopelessly left and can start to read the room and understand the American people don't want illegal aliens, especially criminals, here.
Well, Donald Trump was asked about that last night by Sean, and he said, what will you do about the sanctuary cities? Will you get rid of them? And he said, the only way to do that is really to cut off their money. And also, we saw the images of the illegals being arrested. Within a 33-hour span, they arrested 460 people. So that was from midnight on Monday until 9 a.m. yesterday. There are probably more that were arrested throughout the day yesterday. But these are illegals that have
460 people. And there are probably more. Can you imagine? In just what? 24 hours, 48 hours? 460 people. This is Operation Warp Speed.
criminal history.
Right.
They are accused, some of them, of sexual assault, some domestic violence, drugs and weapons crimes. And Tom Homan said one of them had actually raped a child. So these are people that we don't want in our country. And I was thinking, I wish that this had happened before Laken Riley was killed.
course.
There was a little girl down in Texas,
Yep.
Nungary, and you went down
Jocelyn.
to Jocelyn. 460 arrests could mean that we spared 460 families from pain.
Right, and with the Lincoln Riley Act is going to be signed by the President of the United States either today or tomorrow. Under that, people who are in the country illegally, even though they've got a notice to appear or something like that, which they think is their get-out-of-jail-free card, if they do something like, and some of the violations are low level, like shoplifting and stuff like that, if they get caught under this administration and this directive and this bill, they can get sent home immediately.
There's one last component that they really have to get under control. So you get those notices of appearance, and sometimes those court dates are 3 years out because they just don't have the amount of judges. You got to get immigration judges confirmed. You need a slew of them to litigate these cases, present the evidence, and if these people don't qualify for asylum, then they need a final deportation notice to go back to wherever the country that they originated from. But if you just have people just sitting in limbo, then that's going to slow down the process. You got to get the immigration judges to litigate.
Well, the first thing is there's no new ones.
Yeah.
No new cases starting yesterday.
That's good. That's good. That's good. Like no new cases, but you know, some cases may have 3 years wait or 4 years wait. I mean, it is what it is. But to know that there's a commander-in-chief who actually is ready to execute, that is a relief for most Americans. And this is what they voted for, and this is what they're getting. Promises made, one more time. Promises made, promises kept. Moving forward, LA wildfire has begun once again. Here we go.
Fire crews are once again scrambling to stop a wildfire. The Hughes fire, burning north of LA, has ripped through more than 10,000 acres and about 4,000 hectares in less than a day, and it's only 14% contained. Tens of thousands of people have been forced to evacuate, and the National Weather Service has extended a red flag warning for most of Los Angeles and Ventura counties until early Friday.
That is not good, guys. Not good at all.
Well, students attending the Castaic Middle School and High School were among those evacuated Wednesday. The California Highway Patrol says they wound up in a supermarket parking lot.
It happened real fast. Like, it was like a little bit of fire, and then we went outside like that, and there was a lot of fire. Like, it was crazy.
Well, dark plumes of smoke also providing an eerie backdrop to the rides at an amusement park in nearby Valencia, which was forced to close. The fear is that growing winds overnight and dry brush will provide new fuel for the flames.
Right now, our priority is the front of the fire front. We have engines at the houses that are in front of this fire, there to protect those structures. We're concentrating the aircraft where you see the orange glow. That's our main priority, is to slow this fire down and eventually stop it. And then we'll worry about getting a fire perimeter cut around the whole thing once we get the main head of this fire slowed down and put out.
Well, CNN's Veronica Miracle has our report from the fire zone.
Right now, 31,000 people are currently under mandatory evacuation orders. We are just 45 minutes away from the last deadly and destructive fire that burned in Los Angeles just a few days ago, the Eaton fire. This is the Hughes fire that you're looking at, and you can see the flames roaring behind us over that hillside. Luckily, the fire is burning right now in an area that is desolate. It's just shrubs and a lot of plants, and it's not moving toward residences, but there is, of course, major concern that winds could shift, winds could pick up and blow embers in the direction of houses, of businesses. There's also an RV park just right over the hill there. So firefighters have descended upon this community coming from the Eaton fire and the Palisades fire, moving over here. About 4,000 of them are working to make sure that they can contain this overnight and take advantage of cooler temperatures and lower winds. Veronica Miracle, CNN, Castaic, California.
Well, a retired CAL FIRE operations chief spoke to CNN earlier about what worries him the most about the Hughes fire.
Several thousand people have had to be evacuated because you're running into conditions that have extreme wind coupled with steep terrain and heavy fuels. And access points in rural areas are more difficult as well. And so the conditions for doing direct fire attack, doing perimeter control operations are challenging right now until those winds subsided. And I believe that that's the case, that they have subsided somewhat since the daytime. But what is expected is that they're going to come up again tomorrow. And so the work that they're trying to do right now is going to be key during the night to make sure that they can try to get this contained ahead before the wind speed picks up in those areas.
A new evacuation warning just issued in the LA neighborhood of Sherman Oaks because of a new fire there. People were seen leaving overnight as firefighters scrambled to try to put out those flames. Crews had already been battling the Hughes fire, which started yesterday. As of this morning, that fire is about 14% contained. You can see the smoke from that fire in this video from inside the cockpit of a California Air National Guard plane. Some people trying to save their homes from the flames.
Everybody's watering their roofs. We are doing this house and the house next to us. We're hoping for the best. It's getting worse. It gets better, it gets worse, it gets better, it gets worse, but we have no expectations.
Joining us now is Ariel Cohen, meteorologist in charge at the National Weather Service station in Los Angeles. Ariel, thanks for being back on the show this morning. I appreciate it. Can you give us the latest on where this fire is, what the status is? Is it getting worse, getting better, what the fight looks like?
Yes, we have two wildfires right now in Los Angeles County that continue to grow at this point. There's definitely been a lot of work done also to slow their growth. And we're seeing that. One is in northwest Los Angeles County. That's the Hughes fire, and that developed explosively during the daytime hours on Wednesday. Early this Thursday morning, the environment remains highly conducive for these fires to continue to spread and any new fires to develop and grow very significantly if there were to be ignitions. The Sepulveda fire also had expanded across portions of the eastern Santa Monica's, including the 405, threatening some areas that are very highly populated. And so overall, remain at a very high state of readiness when it comes to the fact that we're still dealing with this prolonged extreme fire weather event across Southern California.
Can you give us an idea, for people who don't live in the Los Angeles area, but maybe familiar with, some of the many landmarks that do exist? This fire, I understand, is close to some of them. I mean, what areas might people recognize that are under threat right now?
Exactly. The area around the Getty Museum is definitely an area where evacuation warnings have been issued earlier, and everyone needs to be paying attention to the potential for evacuation warnings or orders. If an evacuation order is issued for your area, you have to take that seriously. Leave now. You don't want to wait at all. Seconds make the difference between life and death. This particular fire is not too far away from UCLA, not too far away from Beverly Hills area, although it is more located over the eastern extent of the Santa Monica Mountains. and southwest LA County. Farther to the north, the Hughes Fire is located far from the main population center of Los Angeles. However, communities around Castaic and Castaic Lake are certainly being impacted by all of the smoke, as well as the fire spreading around the perimeter of Castaic Lake. And so, as we head through the remainder of the overnight hours, the pre-dawn hours of Thursday, we're dealing with the continued red flag conditions, highly critical conditions. Everyone has to stay at a high state of readiness, not only for these fires, but any other fires that, if they were to form, could grow rapidly, grow explosively, and everyone needs to know where to go, have that go kit, and have multiple ways to receive emergency information from emergency management officials and law enforcement, because again, those seconds make the difference between life and death when it comes to these evacuation orders.
Absolutely. And Ariel, the winds, what is the forecast in terms of how long those winds may continue to last, or will there be a reprieve here in the coming days?
Unfortunately, we're looking at these strong winds to continue on and up, especially over the higher elevations. As we head through the daytime on Thursday, into Thursday night and even Friday morning, red flag warnings remain in effect into Friday. Highest winds will be over the mountains, although foothills locations could also experience gusty winds. Again, over the mountains, gusts upwards of 60 to 65 miles per hour already occurring, and will continue at times all the way through Friday morning. And so this environment continues to contain a volatile combination of ingredients, creating a very, very favorable setup for fires to grow rapidly. Everyone needs to be prepared, be thinking about what could happen if you were to be threatened by these fires and evacuation orders come. As we head into this weekend, a very dramatic change in the weather is expected as a storm system with a lot of cold air comes into the region. It will bring beneficial rains into many areas. We're talking about amounts upwards of a half to an inch in many spots of Los Angeles, Ventura counties, locally higher amounts over the mountains, especially coast-facing slopes of those mountains. However, one thing to note is that if we were to get any thunderstorm cells or heavier rain cells set up, and if they go over some of the areas that were recently burned, that will be susceptible to debris flows, rock slides, mudslides, and other flooding. Talking about a very low chance, but one that's not zero. And we may.
Thank you for tuning into the live show. You know what time it is. It is your boy Genesis. Most people are saying they don't know why these fires are still going on. No, this is a different fire. This is a new one that started yesterday or 2 days ago. This is a new situation right now in LA County, LA area. Okay. These are new fires. This isn't what has been going on for weeks now. No. These are new ones. So if you're just tuning in, thank you for tuning in. Double tap your screen, subscribe to the channel. And of course, John Ratcliffe has been confirmed as the CIA director. If you didn't know, now you know. Pete Hegseth, he's on his way to becoming the head of Pentagon. So everybody get ready for Pete Hegseth to become the defense secretary. Most people are saying it's going to be hard for him for sure, but he is going to get confirmed. It's most likely that he is going to get confirmed. Okay, most likely. I mean, it's too late anyway. I mean, what are they going to do? Start another confirmation hearing? I mean, there's nothing the Democrat cannot do, but at this point, I think Pete is going to get confirmed. Anyway, remember this Chris Test who sort of pleaded with the president? Listen.
In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some who fear for their lives. The vast majority of immigrants are not criminals. I ask you to have mercy, Mr. President, on those in our communities
whose children fear that their parents will be taken away.
So that plea from a D.C. bishop mid-prayer service triggering a firestorm from the Trump administration. Despite President Trump demanding an apology over the sermon, the Reverend Marianne Edgar Buddy telling Time magazine she won't be saying she's sorry. Fox News contributor Bill McGurran with us now. And Bill, good morning to you. Here's Time magazine. She went on The View. That was a strange
That's a tell.
move. Yeah. Time magazine, are you hoping to inspire others
You
to
almost
push
said that was
back
a
against
stupid one.
President Trump's policies? She said, I'd love to have people present another alternative, yes, and to bring compassion and breadth into our public discourse. Well, I guess on that last point, she accomplished that.
Right. I agree with Dana. It was a tell that she went on The View. Look, everything unfolded the way she wanted to. This is not a prayer service. Dana, were you at the Bush's second inaugural prayer service?
I believe so.
We sat through a lot of these kind of events, and they're gracious events. They're good for the country. Many different clergymen get up to speak. This was designed to invite the president in, hold him and his family and his vice president hostage, and to get what you just showed on the screen. You have the president and his team and their faces while this woman is insulting them from the pulpit.
Facts.
It was designed to insult him publicly in front of the whole nation, and it succeeded. I think if she had these concerns, she might have given him a letter for privately, but I think this is a stunt.
Yeah, and that proves it because when she went on The View, she said this. Watch her here.
How could it not be politicized? I was trying to speak a truth that I felt needed to be said, but to do it in as respectful and kind a way as I could. And also to bring other voices into the conversation, which voices that had not been heard in the public space for some time.
And what's interesting is, she's talking. One of the things she talked about was immigrants, and she said she had a very narrow view of the type of immigrant in our country. But then, the people also who didn't have a voice for a long time are the victims' families.
Right.
And that you just saw a bipartisan passage of the Laken Riley.
Exactly. It's like if she's talking like that and saying the people who don't have a voice, it's like, what about Laken Riley's family? What about the woman that was set ablaze in the subway in New York? What are they supposed to say? These atrocities, this destruction was caused by illegal migration. Nobody is saying don't come to the United States. It is come to the United States through the legal way. How is that even hard to comprehend? Isn't that easy? It's not easy to come into the United States, of course, but it's like coming in here illegally is not going to help you. And then you come in here illegally and then you commit crimes. Why did you come in the first place? Why did you come in the first place? You could have just stayed wherever you were to commit whatever crime you know how to commit. But you came into the United States and you commit those crimes. No, that's bad. Nah, man. You need to face the law.
Act. That was the first bill that was passed under President Trump.
And you can have a conversation about all this, but it's not to be done from the pulpit. These are all secular concerns. Nothing about the gospel of Jesus Christ, as far as I can see. It was all political stunt, and now she's on a victory tour of TV saying, I'm not going to apologize. And it's really quite extraordinary. And it's just insulting. And I don't see how that advances
There was another way
your side.
There was another way to do this. She could have expressed her feelings about this and her concerns, and she could have also expressed her concerns for the families of the victims, whether it's Laken Riley, passed on the same day, or that beautiful 12-year-old girl in
Jocelyn Ngari.
Thank you, or her family. We pray for the strength of those families to get over these most challenging times.
That would be like the humanitarian
course in church.
Yeah, that would be the humanitarian way and the nonpartisan way to do it. But I think she's an activist.
She leads a church that very much does this every Sunday. This is not a new thing. And it's not just her. These are the pastors of this church do it all the time.
Yeah, I'm not a member of that church, so I have
That's why they should have gone to the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
That would have been where's the Shrine?
Up there in
or
Catholic
St.
University?
Matthews,
Sure.
the Basilica, or
The Basilica, sure.
or St. Matthews.
But it was
look,
a
it was
shame.
a deliberate choice. They took a man, the president, and when he was hostage, just sitting in his seat, and they put the TV cameras on him and had her issue the stream of political statements.
Bill McGurn, thank you.
Yes. Thank
you
you,
can read
Dave.
him every Tuesday in the Wall Street Journal, and we do. I read it Monday night so I can get a jump on things.
Thank you, Dana.
Good to
Thank
see
you,
you.
Bill.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
Okay, this is the breaking news right here.
Fox News alert, and it looks like John Ratcliffe has been confirmed as the next director of the CIA. 74 yes votes to 25 no votes. That's a total of 99. John Fetterman did not vote, so there's no more votes that are going to be coming in. We don't yet have the official roll call, but we assume that all of the Republicans voted for him, as did 21 Democrats. Just ahead on coming up in the Senate is going to be a test vote on the nomination of Pete Hegseth to be the Secretary of Defense. It's believed that, and Hegseth believes this himself, he told me the other day, that he's going to lose at least 2 votes, likely Murkowski and Collins, maybe McConnell as well, which would take him down to 50, which would mean that the vice president, the president of the Senate, J.D. Vance, would have to come in for the tiebreaker. But Hegseth was very confident as of Friday night that he was going to become the Secretary of Defense. So we will keep watching that.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to...
I mean, Peter Hegseth becoming the next defense secretary. This is what America actually wants. Maybe not everybody in America, but if you voted for Trump, you definitely support his decision to pick Peter Hegseth. And of course, he is a veteran, okay? As a veteran, you got to respect that.
Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, who is also getting used to the place. Caroline, what was it like for you when you walked into that office the first time?
It was an incredibly surreal experience. We are so blessed to be here, and we have hit the ground running because President Trump is hell-bent on delivering on the promises he made to the American people on the campaign trail. So he has gotten a ton of work done in the last 48 hours. More than 200 executive actions have been taken. Today, the United States military, directed by the Department of Defense, has deployed troops, active duty troops, and National Guards, men and women, to secure our southern border. That is at the direction of President Trump, who has made Homeland Security the core mission of the Department of Defense. This is welcome news from the American people. He is delivering on the promises he made to them already.
So can you confirm that he's going to sign an executive order that puts another 1,500 troops, there are already troops there, at the southern border? And when do you expect to see that happen?
President Trump took this action on his first day here in the Oval Office. He, again, directed the Department of Defense to make Homeland Security the core mission of the agency. And today, that mission is underway. We have active duty military personnel, resources, and assets off to secure the southern border. And President Trump will continue to take any action necessary to secure our border and also to launch the largest mass deportation operation in American history. And ICE and the Department of Homeland Security are already working on that as well. In fact, there have been more than 380 arrests in the last 24 hours of known terrorists, rapists, murderers, and illegal aliens in this country who have committed heinous crimes. I have the list, looked through it this morning, and President Trump saw those numbers as well. Tom Homan, Stephen Miller, and of course we have a Secretary of Homeland Security in Kristi Noem, who should be confirmed swiftly by the United States Senate so she can also get to work on this critical issue.
All right, well, let me ask you about that since you brought it up, and we're going to talk to Senator Markwayne Mullin in just a minute. What's the president's reaction to Chris Murphy and a couple others who seem to be tapping the brakes on his confirmation process for his cabinet?
President Trump has been unequivocally clear that all Republicans need to stand strong, tough and smart together to confirm these nominees, and Democrats should do that as well. We saw the Senate unanimously approve Senator Marco Rubio. He's the first to be confirmed. We expect that Pete Hegseth will also be confirmed later this week, and all of President Trump's nominees should be confirmed by the United States Senate because they are exceptionally qualified to do the jobs that he has tasked them with. These are brilliant individuals. They are outsiders who are are coming to Washington with decades of experience in their respective fields to shake up the swamp. That's what the American people elected
Caroline,
President Trump to do, and that's what this team will help him do.
Does the president want the Senate to?
Yeah, Caroline, look, this lady, Caroline Levitt, she is 27 years old. I am 29 years old, okay? This lady is 27 years old. And she is the press secretary to the White House. Can you imagine at 27 years old what she's accomplished with her life? That is inspirational. Most people would say, well, Trump doesn't support women. This is a young woman who Trump hired to be his White House press secretary. Can you imagine the opportunity he's given her? And she's capable. It happens to look like she's capable. And we know, does anybody in the chat miss, do you miss, what's her name? Karen Jean-Pierre. Oh, is that her name? KJP? Who misses her?
To shut down, essentially, to go into recess and push through recess appointments? Is that his directive to the senators?
I have not heard him give that directive directly, so I can't speak to that. But I do know that he believes it's imperative that the United States Senate confirms his nominees, particularly those in the national security space. As we know, the threats to our homeland have never been greater.
Let me ask you, we just heard the contents again of President Biden's letter to President Trump, a very cordial letter asking God to bless the country and his work as he moves forward as the commander in chief. I would imagine that's what all of you were expecting to hear a little bit more of at the National Cathedral yesterday. Were you surprised at the tone from Bishop Buddy? And did anyone feel that maybe having her speak was going to be a little problematic when everyone walked in there?
It was supposed to be a unifying and bipartisan church service in the beautiful National Cathedral here in Washington, D.C. And I was there with President Trump, and everybody there was shocked and mortified by the disturbing comments from this bishop who chose to weaponize the pulpit. She had an opportunity to pray over the president and the vice president and their families who are sitting in the first pews. And she spoke about truth, which was very ironic because words later, she spewed lies. She said that President Trump has called illegal or immigrants criminals. That's not true. He calls illegal immigrants criminals because, in fact, they are criminals by definition. If you break our nation's laws, you are a criminal. She also talked about how LGBTQ people in this country may be disappointed. That's also a lie. In fact, I just saw Scott Bessent in the West Wing of the White House on his way to meet with President Trump, and he is the highest ranking LGBTQ official in United States history appointed by the president in the Oval Office right now. So the comments by that bishop yesterday were egregious, and she should apologize to President Trump for the lies that she told. It's despicable to see that.
I mean, she's all over other channels, sort of taking a victory lap, I guess, on The View. So I don't know if any apology is forthcoming, but it was certainly a very partisan and inappropriate sermon that she gave. It seemed to become all about her rather than all about blessing the president on his way in, as it has always traditionally been. I want to ask you about this because we heard this massive announcement of Stargate with Larry Ellison and Sam Altman and Masasan, the head of SoftBank, $500 billion investment, which I think people welcome, that everyone wants, I believe, us to be on the cutting edge of AI. But then Elon Musk came out and said SoftBank doesn't actually have the money. SoftBank has well under $10 billion secured. I have that on good authority. What's the president's reaction to that from Elon Musk?
Well, President Trump is very excited about this infrastructure announcement in the field of AI, which is obviously growing and something the United States of America needs to capitalize on because our adversaries, such as China, are very advanced in this field. And so that was a big announcement for our country, for our industries here at home, and also for the American people, because this is going to create a minimum of 100,000 jobs here in the United States of America. So the American people should take President Trump and those CEOs' words for it. These investments are coming to our great country, and American jobs are coming along with them.
All right. Well, it'll be interesting to watch all of that play out. And Sam Altman, I should point out, went back at Elon Musk and said they absolutely do have the money for this venture. And they have their own bit of back and forth on social media that's been going on for quite some time. I want to ask you about this, Caroline. Just crossed the wires, and we were waiting for a new executive order with regard to the border. It says Trump signs, let me just get it in front of me here. Thompson, Reuters reporting, Trump signs executive order to suspend physical entry of migrants through the southern border. Give us a sense of what that means. And I guess the question that comes to mind first is what happens if someone does physically cross the border? What will happen to that individual under this executive order?
President Trump is using every lever of his executive power to secure our nation's borders. This is the #1 promise that he made to the American people on the campaign trail. And with this action today and the many actions that he took on day one in the Oval Office, he is delivering on that promise. And he is sending a very clear message to the rest of the world. If you are even thinking for a single second about illegally entering our country and breaking the laws of the United States of America, you will face consequences for doing so. You will be returned to your home country, and you will be arrested, and you will be prosecuted as well. One of the actions President Trump took on day one is actually empowering the court system to ramp up the prosecutions of illegal criminals who commit crimes here at home. And we are not going to tolerate this in sanctuary cities as well across this country. The only place the United States of America should be a sanctuary for is law-abiding American citizens. That's the new way under this Trump administration. And President Trump will also continue to push Congress to pass border security measures as well to increase funding for Border Patrol and for ICE, for those brave men and women in uniform who have now been finally empowered to do their jobs after 4 long years under the Harris-Biden administration.
Well, we have heard from Tom Homan that they are elated that they can actually do their jobs, and this additional force at the border gives them a little bit more leeway to be able to do the job that they do rather than some of the things that landed on their lap. And I think it sends a very strong message to anybody thinking about trying to cross the border, not at a port of entry, but, across the border, as our cameras have picked up for the last several years, Caroline, that you will be, according to the language, repelled, repatriated, and removed.
That's right.
If you try to cross our southern border. And obviously, the ports of entry are the places to be processed and to apply to come into this country. And we've just watched people come over the sides of the mountains into California and Arizona and all of our states at the border. Caroline, thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here.
She's doing a good job, a great job, that's for sure, because she's a very skillful communicator. And to be a press secretary at the White House, you have to be skillful, articulate for sure. And she's doing a great job. And this is what her day 2 on the job, or day 3. She's going to get better at it for the next, 2 years, 4 years. She's definitely going to be maybe second to the GOAT. Second to the GOAT. You know the GOAT. Everybody knows the GOAT. Okay. Kayleigh is the GOAT of the press secretary in the White House. Yeah, there's nobody. Kayleigh is the GOAT. But she's doing a wonderful job. All right, so birthright citizenship. Here is the update.
Jonathan Turley is joining us with the breaking news that we just heard this judge is blocking the birthright citizenship executive order that came from the president in his first days of office. Jonathan, your reaction here?
Well, this is along the lines of what we just discussed on the air, that this is the most vulnerable executive order of all of those issued by President Trump. The widespread expectation was this result. The Trump administration knew that. There's every indication that the Trump administration invited a challenge because they want to get into the courts in order to eventually make it to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court can, of course, change the interpretation of the 14th Amendment, although I would still say that is unlikely. But I think that what you're really seeing playing out here is a dual legal and political strategy. Frankly, I think that the Trump administration views this as winning either way. That is, to the extent that it forces Democrats to oppose the legislation in Congress, to oppose this effort in court, it plays well with a large number of citizens who don't agree with birthright citizenship. People should realize that we're in the minority on this. Most of our close allies in Europe, most of the world, does not recognize birthright citizenship. So I think you're seeing both a legal and political strategy playing out.
So this was tested in the courts. It was a long time ago. It was back in 1898, the case of Wong Kim Ark, who was son of Chinese parents. He was born in San Francisco. Under the 14th Amendment, he would have qualified under the original interpretation as a citizen of the United States. He went to visit his parents in China. Then when he came back, he was denied entry. But the Supreme Court decided in favor of him. So that's, I guess, since then, it's been determined that anybody who is in this country who's not working as a diplomatic attaché or something like that, or working diplomatically for an embassy, if they have a child in the United States, that child is an American citizen. But getting back to your point, when you look at that affirmation of the 14th Amendment provision in 1898 and this idea that, well, maybe they don't need a constitutional amendment, can the Supreme Court simply clarify what they believe is the intention of the 14th Amendment, Jonathan?
Yes, they can. I mean, the thing is, the case that you mentioned, people who challenge birthright citizenship point out that the Chinese parents were lawfully here. No one is challenging the idea that the children of citizens or lawful residents can have this claim. But yes, the Supreme Court can adopt an alternative interpretation of those 6 key words. What do they mean? And there may be some justices who are inclined to do that. But this has been the longstanding precedent that the Supreme Court has followed. So it was virtually impossible that the Trump administration could prevail in the lower courts because they would feel bound by this case law. Now, the question about head counting on the Supreme Court makes this rather difficult. I think that there might be some justices who are interested in re-examining those 6 words and what they mean and not effectively reading them out of the amendment. But I also think that what these justices are going to be really influenced by is that there was a division of opinion at the time this was passed. Some of the people at that time said that it did not allow birthright citizenship, while others said that it did. And I think that you might find some conservative justices inclined to stay with that approach. Justices like John Roberts, who tends to be an incrementalist, tends to be much more conservative on these types of questions.
All right, Professor, stand by with us if you would.
Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno.
Now, what do you guys think about birthright citizenship? Now, what President Trump is talking about is, people come here for holidays, for sightseeing, for tourism, or for whatever. And, they may be pregnant, like 9 months pregnant or 8 months pregnant, and they're going to stay here until they have the baby. And then the baby automatically becomes a United States citizen. That's how it's been for a long time. And this is what he's talking about. He's saying that if you are a tourist, like you're on tourist visa or student visa, and then you have a baby, it's like, does your child just automatically gets the citizenship status? This is what Trump is saying. He's saying he wants to go against that. But don't forget, this is in the Constitution. It is an amendment in the Constitution. And, a lot of people have reservations on this. If Trump can change this with a signature, then a lot is going to be changing. Any amendment can actually be changed if this happens. But, we're still here looking at this. I would say even illegal immigrants are getting citizenship status for their kids that are born here. And this is what Trump is trying to stop once again. So people are going to oppose to it. A lot of people are going to oppose to it. A lot of people are going to, go with it. Some people are going to say, you know what, this is total BS. I support the 14th Amendment and this shouldn't be happening. But Everybody has their own reservations. Um, this next 4 years is definitely going to be a lot to take in for most people. I'm talking about even the people that voted for Trump. And they're going to say, you might be 100% sure that you agree with everything he's talking about. When people talk, it's easier to comprehend what they're saying than actions. When actions actually start taking place, it's like, oh man, I thought it wasn't. Nah, Trump ain't joking. Whatever he says he's going to do, he is going to do. This is why I voted for him, actually. I voted for him because I know he prides himself in being a man of his words. So, everybody, you better get on board because he is going to take you by surprise. He ain't joking around. He ain't playing around. He is a commander in chief, the 45th, now the 47th. Probably the greatest president the United States has ever had, and maybe will ever have. I doubt we'll ever have because Trump has changed the trajectory of leadership in the United States, and whoever comes next would have a large shoe to fill. So they better get ready.
DOA, that is dead on arrival. The 5 p.m. deadline has passed on President Trump's order for all federal government agencies to shutter their diversity, equity, and inclusion offices. And that's a lot of potential layoffs for a workforce that has over 2 million people. The goal is restoring the importance of individual merit and ending the, quote, forced, illegal, and immoral discrimination. Some folks in the media do not see it that way, accusing the president of being a DEI hire.
And thinking about that, and Donald Trump saying things that this country would be a meritocracy, you're talking about a man who didn't become the president of the United States because of merit. He was given everything that he has. He is a legacy hire. He is, if anything, a DEI hire, a didn't earn it hire. And so...
Oh, I see. So 77 million people who voted for this guy. We got to go back and listen to that.
Forced, illegal, and immoral discrimination. Some folks.
All right, we're going to play this so everybody can listen to it.
In the media do not see it that way, accusing the president of being a DEI hire.
And thinking about that, and Donald Trump saying things that this country would be a meritocracy, you're talking about a man who didn't become the president of the United States because of merit. He was given everything that he has. He is a legacy hire. He is, if anything, a DEI hire, a didn't earn it hire. And so, that...
Okay, so 77 million people plus who voted for Donald J. Trump to be their commander-in-chief. How is that they didn't earn it higher? How is that he won all swing states? How is that even common sense to this lady to say things like this? This is what MSNBC does. Some people say MSDNC. This is what they do. This is just what... Actually, this is The View. This is what they do on The View.
Those are just some of the things that I was thinking about.
But it's not just...
Did she just say those are some of the things she was thinking about? I don't know about that. You need to start thinking about much more constructive things, because what are you talking about? People went to vote and they voted for this man because they were concerned about the border. They were concerned about the economy. They were concerned about sending billions of munitions to other countries. They were concerned about the safety of their cities, of their states. This is why Trump won the election. And she's saying he is a DEI hire. This is what the left does. And this is why they lost in 2024, probably going to lose in 2028. I know I keep saying this, but this is what is going to happen. And they're probably going to lose in 2032. Most likely going to lose in 2032 as well. Keep going. You're going to get what you asked for.
As the feds, corporations have also been rolling back DEI programs. It's got the Reverend Al Sharpton threatening a boycott.
These companies that are now saying they're going to back up off of diversity and equity and inclusion should therefore not have a diverse consumer base. You don't want diversity? Then we should not buy your products. We're going to make.
Okay, we're going to go back and listen to that one.
Threatening a boycott.
All right, I want us to listen to Al Sharpton. Listen.
These companies that are now saying they're going to back up off of diversity and equity and inclusion should therefore not have a diverse consumer base. You don't want diversity? Then we should not buy your products. And we're going to make the example of Dr. King is withdraw dollars. Donald Trump can't make us spend money with companies that will not deal and commit and continue with diversity and equity and inclusion.
Okay, well then stop using Walmart. You're never going to stop using Walmart. You're never going to stop using Facebook. You're never going to stop buying iPhones. This is what happens when people just say stuff, oh, well, let us, if you don't want to include diversity. What do you mean by diversity? There is diversity in each and every one of these companies. They're saying that, you know what? We now want to hire based on performance, not just based on, oh, this person looks like that. We're going to hire them because we don't have people looking like that. It's now based on merit. You have to be able to perform on the job that you're being hired to do. It's not more, there is no more free sailing. Oh, look at me. I am a victim, so you better hire me. It's not going to happen anymore. And I get it. Some people are like actually qualified to do the job. If you're qualified to do the job that you're getting hired to do, you're not a DEI hire. You are actually what the United States stands for. Performance. All right? This is what it is. People just say DEI. No. What they're actually doing with DEI is hiring people that are actually maybe not competent. Allegedly, this is what it's been going on around. You saw the fire situation in California, LA County. This lady said, well, if I go into a house and I have to pick somebody up in the burning home, it's like, why did you get yourself there in the first place? This is an actual video that existed. If you cannot pick someone up from a burning building, why are you doing this job in the first place? DEI. That's what DEI is. It is your job to carry somebody out of a burning building if you decide to be a fireman or a firewoman. I'm sorry, this is just what it is. And this is what Trump means by DEI hire. You have to be capable. You have to be able to perform on the job you're being hired to do. And that's it. I rest my case.
Sharpton actually went through with that. He wouldn't have anything to buy.
Yeah, it's true. You know that companies love this because it's not their decision to make anymore. I'm not racist. It's like, I'm off the hook. It's like, Dad said, I can't drive you to work because it's too dangerous. Don't have to do it. So it's great. It's off their table. Proponents of DEI will say that the critics are anti-diversity. No, we actually think diversity is a positive as long as it doesn't come before competence or merit. You hire for merit and competence. If you do the reverse, you hope when you hire for a competence, that diversity is reflected over time in that. But if you do the reverse and you hire for diversity and hope for competence, you're going to get broken planes, corrupt mayors, and obviously The View with Sonny Hostin. But there's another thing about DEI, the forgotten victims, and I don't mean the people who didn't get the job because they weren't the right skin color, but the people who got the jobs. They're always going to be viewed with suspicion that they're examples of preferential treatment. We've talked about that. But there's also another thing, and I've seen this happen everywhere. You could be a great hire in the future, but if you're not ready for the job when they put you in there, you will collapse and you will lose that opportunity. If you give somebody too much too soon, the person will always fail, always fail. Do you think, in 2007, they were going to put me on a show like this it would have been a disaster. So they put me on at 3 a.m. and I toiled away for 7 years. And now I am a superstar. I can't even walk outside anymore. It's ridiculous. But sometimes you got to climb before you can shine. And there are a lot of people whose
Got to give this man his props, man. He is spitting fact. Okay, this is why you gotta work your way to the top. Okay, we started streaming when last year, June or July. Okay, that's when we started streaming, and we had what 2,000 subscribers, and now we are at 122,000 subscribers. We're still babies. Okay, I'm not even 1 year into streaming, so I give myself 5 years. Okay, most people say, "Well, you're doing great, Genesis." Nah, I know I still have a lot to learn. Okay. This is what Gutfeld just said. You cannot give someone too much before they're ready. They're always going to fail. There are things that I'm still learning. I'm seeing other big YouTubers, there are big YouTubers that are doing great things, big streamers. Okay. But to get great on the job, you have to keep doing it. You have to prove yourself that you're actually capable. Okay. It's about capabilities. It's about performance. Can you perform under pressure? This is why I find Trump to be an inspiration. He has inspired me in so many ways because he never folds under pressure. Never.
careers got screwed up by being pushed up too soon. Isn't that a nice comment, Jesse?
It's true. I was groomed from a very early age at this company.
But that was an
be the man.
Care to rephrase?
I was never put in a position where I would just fall flat on my face.
Yes.
You're right. You're always brought up carefully and methodically. I did a lot of research for this segment, Dana.
Can't wait.
Racial research. I don't know why I got so excited about that. 60% of the federal workforce is white. Guess what the percentage of white Americans are? 60%. Accurately reflects the demographics of the country. What is the percentage of black Americans in the federal government? 18%. What's the percentage in the population? 14%. So the black Americans are actually overrepresented in the federal government, and white Americans equally represented as a proportion to the population. So why do we need more inclusion? Why do we need more diversity? In fact, we've been incredibly inclusive. No one's really overrepresented in white America. People are actually overrepresented in black America. And I would argue, Dana, without any evidence at all, that trans people are overrepresented in the federal government, just based off the pictures I've seen on television of some of these people. DEI is so toxic that we are literally funding hatred. We are funding, it's his taxpayer-funded hate. And international communism spent decades trying to poison this country. And DEI has done more damage than international communism has in just 4 years. Other reasons to hate DEI? They empower human resources. Everybody hates HR.
DEI to me is more of division. You're causing more division every single time. Any initiative that divides people should be abolished. Yeah. Any initiatives that divides people, we should be coming together. Unity is what everybody should be campaigning on. It shouldn't be, well, diversity, equity, inclusion. I get it. It sounds like it's uniting people, but it's actually not, because if you include that into your hiring process, it's like you can see two people that are capable of doing a job, or you see one person that's actually capable, but one isn't really that capable. You may want to hire the one that isn't that capable because they look like what should be in your company to cause a diverse culture or to bring about a diverse culture in your company. And that's not what we need. We need competence. To be the greatest country in the world, you need competence. And this is why Elon Musk said H-1B visa is very important to the United States. And Trump said, yes, he agrees. I 1,000% agree with H-1B visa. You may not like it, but it is facts. If you go to the hospital right now, you have Indians, you have Chinese, you have Africans who may, or may not be American citizens working in those companies, in those hospitals, in those medical centers, and they're saving people's lives, saving Americans' lives. Nobody's asking, what do you look like? If you're about to change your kidney, if you have a liver transplant or a kidney transplant, what do you want? Do you want a DEI hire, or you want someone who is actually capable of forming that process for you? If you're about to change your kidney, you have a kidney transplant, would you say, I want someone who looks like me to change my kidney? No, you just want someone who is competent, someone who has performed that operation for decades, who is known to be a capable kidney operator or whatever it is. That's what you need. You're not going to say, I want someone who looks like me. No. All right. So competence always wins.
It also basically is a jobs program for lawyers. The judge knows how I feel about lawyers. And it destroys the American work ethic, because if everybody's a victim, they expect things to be given to them, and it kills their ambition. And Dana, if we're going to have a new golden age, we need as much ambition as possible.
There is a brilliant lawyer that's been working on this, Judge. Her name is May Mailman, and she's been working even on these things outside. So it's when they're writing these executive orders, it's not like just throwing spaghetti against the wall and hoping it sticks. Like, they know what they're doing to see if it. They know what they're doing in order for it to be effective. But if all these people are going to walk off the job anyway, then okay.
Well, first of all, I mean, the whole point of DEI is really contrary to the opinion of the Supreme Court. When we saw the Supreme Court say no more affirmative action when what was it, admissions or students for fair admissions in Harvard, I think it was North Carolina, I'm not sure what the other school was, they ended affirmative action in higher education. Okay, so we've got that going on with the Supreme Court saying no more of this. Everybody's the same. You go in, you don't get a benefit because of the color of your skin. You compete based upon merit. But DEI has been nothing more than a waste of money, because what you end up with are, you hire unqualified people. Example, Los Angeles Fire Department, where this DEI hire says, hey, it was I think she's I don't know what she is, but she says, if you're a guy and I can't carry you, well, you're just in the wrong place. I mean, talk about insensitivity and the inability to do the job. And as it relates to Al Sharpton, let me just say this. This guy's a voice in the wilderness. He thinks he's going to
voice in the wilderness.
Amazon, McDonald's, especially McDonald's, Walmart, Boeing, Molson's, Lowe's, Ford Motor Company, Jack Daniels, Harley Davidson. It ain't going to work. And Al, and then finally, Sonny.
Exactly. These leaders in the culture that they talk about, it's like you're telling people to not spend money. You think people would not go to Walmart because they dropped their DEI programs? They're still going to shop at Walmart. What do you think is going to happen? McDonald's, people will still go there for McD's. What do you think it is? All words, nothing to back it up. You ain't even got the food company to say, you know what, people go shop right here because I still, implement DEI, whatever. No, you're telling people to not shop there. And it's like, okay, what is the alternative?
Austin, this one makes me crazy. Donald Trump is a legacy hire. Are you kidding me? Donald Trump's a legacy hire? What the hell is the woman that you supported, Kamala Harris, not only is a legacy hire, no one even voted for her.
No, and also, I was thinking all of those things, and that DEI was like a tapeworm in the government, Harold. It started, and then it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and then people were dependent on it, and it's killing you.
Tapeworm.
So I have a slightly different opinion than everybody at the table on this. And where I agree with everyone, I believe that competence and being qualified and being capable have to always be the forefront and the guiding principles for anybody hired for anything. I think sometimes the opponents of affirmative action or DEI, sometimes I think either intentionally or unintentionally or inadvertently seem to suggest that there are people who are being promoted or given an opportunity when they don't have the ability or the qualifications for the job. I'm sure that happens in some instances. And then I think some people who are opponents of DEI begin to extrapolate that women and blacks and Hispanics and whomever might not should have had that job, and we might not should look at those people for jobs because there's a presumption they're not qualified. Now, we never say that about white guys who get fired, which is a good thing. When Mr. President Trump fired Rex Tillerson, he brought a white guy on to succeed him. I think he brought on Mike Pompeo. When he fired John Bolton, he brought on Robert O'Brien. All I'm saying is this was a good thing. You look for qualifications. Now, people who get hired who are not qualified, we should call them out regardless of their race.
Can you hear me? I hear some audio glitch right here. Okay, anyway. Thank you for tuning into the live show. You know what time it is. It is your boy Genesis. I 1000% do not support DEI because I don't want to be hired and they're going to tell me, well, we're hiring you because we want diversity in this company. Nope. I want to be hired because of my performance, okay, because of my skills, okay, because of my competence. I don't want to be hired because of diversity, okay. With that being said, you guys are the best. Double tap your screen, subscribe to the channel. Instead of looking for perfection, seek for consistency. Never give up on yourself. Never give up on your dreams. Never give up on God. Believe in yourself, believe in your dreams, and believe in Almighty God. I love you guys. Thank you to the veterans. Thank you to the active military members. You guys protect the homeland. God bless you. And one time again, it is your boy Genesis, and I am signing out. God bless you guys. Stay safe. Love your children. Love your family. Fathers, take care of your kids for sure. And love God, okay? God bless you. God bless the United States. And God bless me. See y'all.